Hello, friends. Welcome to the Sleep Aliens. Did you know that nearly 80% of those who watch my videos aren't subscribed? If you enjoy the content, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. By the way, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been in a place so quiet you could hear your heart beating inside your chest? Wyoming is just like that. More specifically, it was Cheyenne County around 2 o'clock on a Tuesday toward the end of September. My name is Luke Callahan, and the story I'm about to tell took place on my family's cattle ranch, 40 miles from the nearest town. On the night it all began, I wasn't looking for anything strange. I was trying to get some sleep before dawn, but around 2:17 a.m., I heard a sound loud enough to wake me from my bed. A low hum. It wasn't like a generator or a car engine. It was different. I felt the vibrations in the walls, the floor, and my chest. I sat up, listening. The sound didn't fade. It didn't get louder either. It just existed. Constant. Unnatural. My bedroom window faces the barn, about 200 yards across open ground. I could see the outline of it against the starlit sky, that massive structure my grandfather built in 1967. Solid, dependable. And right then, it looked wrong somehow. The shadows didn't fall the way they should. I pulled on my jeans and boots, grabbed my flashlight, and headed downstairs. The house was dead silent except for that hum. It seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. As I stepped out onto the porch, the September air hit me cold and sharp. The stars were out, thousands of them, like they always are out here where there's no light pollution to drown them out. But something was off. The cattle weren't making a sound. Usually, you hear them moving around, lowing softly to each other. Not tonight. Total silence except for that persistent hum. I started walking toward the barn, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The grass crunched under my boots. The wind had died completely, which was strange in itself. Wyoming always has wind. Always. But right then, the air was perfectly still, like the whole world was holding its breath. The hum grew slightly louder as I approached the barn. Not much, but enough to notice. My skin prickled. Every instinct told me to turn around, go back inside, lock the doors. But this is my property, my family's land. I wasn't about to let some weird noise chase me off. I reached the barn door and pulled it open. The hinges creaked, loud in the unnatural quiet. Inside, darkness. I swept my flashlight across the interior. The horses were in their stalls, but they weren't moving. They stood perfectly still, heads up, ears forward, staring at nothing I could see. "Easy there," I called out softly. None of them even flicked an ear toward me. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. Text from Aaron Dorsey, my neighbor from the property 3 miles east. "You hearing this?" I typed back. "Yeah, what is it?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Coming over. Don't go outside alone." Too late for that, I thought. But something in her message made my stomach tighten. Erin's lived out here her whole life, just like me. She's seen storms, dealt with predators, handled every kind of ranch emergency. If something had her spooked enough to drive over at 2 a.m., it was serious. I walked back outside, keeping my phone in my hand. The hum was still there, still constant. I looked up at the sky, searching for aircraft lights, satellites, anything that might explain it. What I saw instead stopped me cold. About 1,000 feet up, directly above the barn, there was something. Not a light exactly, more like a distortion in the stars. A circular area where the starlight seemed to bend slightly, like heat shimmer on a summer road. But it was cold out, and this wasn't moving like heat shimmer moves. I stared at it, my neck craned back, flashlight forgotten in my hand. The longer I looked, the more defined it became. It was rotating slowly, this distortion, this impossible thing in my sky, and the hum was coming from it. Headlights appeared on the access road, moving fast. Erin's truck. She pulled up next to the barn and got out, leaving her engine running and headlights on. She was in sweatpants and a jacket, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Luke," she said, walking quickly toward me. "Tell me you see it." "The thing above the barn?" I asked. She nodded, relief and fear mixing in her expression. "It's over my property, too. Same height, same size. I've been watching it for 10 minutes. How is that possible?" I asked. "Your place is 3 miles away." "I don't know," she said quietly. "But I called my brother in town. He sees it too. He says it's above the whole county." A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold air. I looked back up. The distortion was clearer now, or maybe my eyes had just adjusted. It was massive, easily 500 feet across, perfectly circular, and it was completely silent except for that low, persistent hum. "What do we do?" Erin asked. Before I could answer, something changed. The hum stopped, just like that. 1 second it was there, the next, gone. The silence that followed was somehow worse, heavier, like the air itself had gotten thicker. We both looked up. The distortion was still there, still rotating slowly. But now, very faintly, I could see light beginning to gather at its center. Not bright, not yet. Just a subtle glow, like dawn starting to break, but wrong. The color was off, too blue, too cold. "Luke," Erin whispered, "I think we should get inside." The light grew brighter. The circular distortion began to pulse, each pulse sending a wave through the air that I could feel in my chest. The horses in the barn began to scream. Not neigh, scream. High-pitched, terrified sounds I'd never heard horses make before. Erin grabbed my arm. "Inside, now!" We ran for the house. Behind us, the light grew brighter still, casting our shadows long and sharp across the ground. I could feel heat on the back of my neck, despite the cold September air. We hit the porch steps and I yanked the door open, pulling Erin inside behind me. I slammed the door and locked it, which felt absurd. What good would a lock do against something like that? But it was instinct, the human need to put a barrier between yourself and danger. We moved to the living room window that faces the barn. The light was brilliant now, a cold, blue-white glow that illuminated everything like daylight. But it wasn't daylight. It was wrong. Colors looked off. Shadows fell at impossible angles. "Is it landing?" Erin asked, her voice barely audible. I shook my head. "I don't think so. It's just hovering." For 5 full minutes, nothing happened. The light stayed constant. The rotation continued. The horses eventually went quiet, though whether from calm or exhaustion, I couldn't tell. Erin and I stood at the window, watching, waiting for whatever would happen next. Then, as suddenly as it had intensified, the light began to fade. The rotation slowed. Within 30 seconds, the distortion had disappeared completely, leaving only the normal Wyoming night sky, stars shining like they'd never been disturbed at all. The only sound was our breathing, harsh and fast in the quiet house. "Did that just happen?" Erin asked, after a long moment. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, it did." "What was it?" I shook my head slowly, still staring out the window at the innocent-looking sky. "I have no idea, but I was about to find out, and I wish to God I never had." We didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Erin stayed at the house, and we sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee that had gone cold hours ago, jumping at every sound, watching the windows for any sign of that distortion returning. Around 4 a.m., Erin's phone rang. Her brother, Mason. "You guys okay?" His voice came through the speaker, rough with exhaustion. "Define okay," Erin answered. "Did you see it disappear?" "Yeah. Listen, I've been on the phone with people all over the county. Everyone saw it. Everyone. And Erin, it's not just us. Reports are coming in from Nebraska, Montana, even parts of Colorado. Whatever that was, it was huge." I leaned forward. "Anyone from the Air Force Base say anything?" Warren Air Force Base was about 40 miles from my property. "Nothing official," Mason said. "But I have a friend who works there. He says the whole base went on lockdown. No one in, no one out. They're not talking." Of course they weren't. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the exhaustion settling into my bones. "What do we do?" "Stay alert," Mason said. "And if you see anything else, anything at all, you call me immediately." After he hung up, Erin and I sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, she said, "I should check on my cattle, make sure they're okay." "Want company?" I asked. She nodded. "Yeah, I really do." We drove over to her property in her truck, the rising sun just beginning to paint the eastern horizon with streaks of orange and pink. Normally, I loved Wyoming sunrises. Not today. Today, even the beauty felt threatening, like a mask hiding something terrible underneath. Erin's ranch was similar to mine, sprawling and isolated. Her barn sat in almost the exact same position relative to her house as mine did. As we approached, I felt my stomach sink. "Erin," I said quietly, "look at the roof." She stopped the truck. We both stared. The metal roof of her barn, normally a dull gray, was covered in a fine layer of something that caught the morning light and sparkled. Not frost. It was too warm for frost. This was something else. We got out and walked closer. The substance covered the entire roof, a thin coating that looked almost like metal dust. Erin reached up to touch the lowest edge of the roof where it hung over the barn door. "Don't," I said, grabbing her wrist. "We don't know what that is." She pulled her hand back, nodding. "You're right, but Luke, look at the water trough." The trough sat about 20 feet from the barn, a large galvanized steel container we'd filled yesterday evening. The water inside had the same coating on its surface, a thin metallic film that didn't break when the morning breeze finally picked up and rippled the water beneath it. "This was under that thing," Erin said softly. "Whatever it was, it left this behind." I pulled out my phone and took several pictures, making sure to get close-ups and wide shots. Documentation, evidence, proof that we weren't losing our minds. "We should call someone," Erin said. "The police, the Air Force, someone." "And tell them what?" I asked. "That we saw something in the sky and now there's weird dust on your barn? They'll think we're crazy." "Maybe we are crazy," she said, but her voice didn't sound convinced. We spent the next hour checking her cattle. They seemed fine, just spooked. Same with the horses. But that coating, that impossible metal dust, covered everything that had been directly under the distortion. The barn, the water troughs, even some of the fence posts. By the time we got back to my property, it was nearly 7 a.m. I was exhausted, running on adrenaline and too much coffee. But as we pulled up to my barn, I felt a fresh surge of energy, because my barn roof had it too, that same metallic coating sparkling in the morning sun. "It's the same," Erin said unnecessarily. "Exactly the same." We got out and walked to my water tank, the large circular tank that provided water for the cattle. Just like at Erin's place, a thin metallic film covered the surface of the water. I grabbed a clean mason jar from the barn and carefully scooped some of the water, making sure to get a good sample of the coating. The substance felt strange, almost like talc, but with a metallic sheen that shifted colors in the light. "What are you going to do with that?" Aaron asked. "I don't know yet," I admitted, "but I'm not just going to pretend this didn't happen." I sealed the jar and held it up to the morning sun. The metallic film on the water's surface caught the light, creating rainbow patterns that seemed to move independently of the liquid. It was beautiful in a deeply unsettling way. "Luke, look at your hands," Erin said, her voice tight. I glanced down. Where I'd touched the water, my fingertips had a faint shimmer to them, barely visible, but definitely there. The same metallic sheen as the coating on the water. "Does it hurt?" Erin asked. I flexed my fingers, examining them. "No, I can't feel anything. It's just there." I tried to wipe it off on my jeans, but it didn't come away. "It's not rubbing off. We need to wash it, now." We went to the outdoor spigot and I scrubbed my hands with cold water and the harsh soap we kept there for cleaning equipment. The shimmer faded slightly, but didn't disappear completely. Even after 5 minutes of washing, there was still a faint metallic tint to my skin. "It's bonding with you," Erin said. "Whatever it is, it's not just sitting on the surface, it's absorbing into your skin." The thought made my stomach turn. I'd been exposed to whatever that thing had left behind. It was inside me now, in some way I couldn't understand or measure. "We should go to the hospital," Erin suggested. "Get you checked out. Blood work, whatever they can do." "And tell them what? That I touched mystery substance from a UFO and now my hands are glowing?" I shook my head. "They'd either think I'm insane or they'd report it to the Air Force. Either way, we lose control of the situation." Erin looked like she wanted to argue, but she knew I was right. We were in this alone. No one would believe us, and involving authorities would only make things more complicated. The rest of the day passed in a strange blur. Word spread fast in a county this small. By noon, everyone was talking about the lights. Stories varied, details got exaggerated, but the core truth remained. Everyone had seen something impossible in the sky last night, and everyone who'd been directly under it found the same metallic coating. But what nobody was talking about yet was what happened when you touched it. I kept my hands in my pockets as much as possible, checking them periodically to see if the shimmer was getting worse or better. It seemed to be stabilizing, neither spreading nor fading. Around 1 p.m. I got a call from Tom Bridger, a rancher who lived about 15 miles south. His property had been under the distortion, too. "Luke, you got that weird dust on your place?" he asked without preamble. "Yeah, on the barn roof and in the water." "Same here, but Luke, my dog got into it. Drank from the trough before I could stop him. Now, he's acting strange." "Strange how?" "Won't come inside, just sits in the yard staring up at the sky. Been doing it for hours. Won't eat, won't respond when I call him. Just stares." My blood ran cold. "Tom, you need to keep him away from people. Don't let anyone touch him until we figure out what this stuff does. Already tried bringing him in. He snapped at me. My own dog. He's never done that before." Tom's voice cracked. "What the hell is happening, Luke?" "I don't know, but I'm documenting everything. Take pictures, videos, whatever you can. We might need evidence later." After we hung up, I told Erin about Tom's dog. She'd been sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the jar of contaminated water like it might suddenly explode. "It's affecting behavior," she said. "The cattle are still acting normal, but that dog, whatever this is, it's doing something to the brain, to perception." "Or maybe the dog sees something we don't," I said. "Maybe it's staring at something that's actually there." The thought hung between us, heavy and terrible. Erin went home around 3 p.m. to get some actual sleep. I tried to do the same, but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that distortion, that impossible thing rotating silently above my property. So I stayed up, doing busy work around the ranch, checking on the cattle, repairing fence, anything to keep my hands and mind occupied. My hands. I kept looking at them, at that faint metallic shimmer that refused to fade completely. What was it doing to me? Was it changing me on a cellular level? Would I end up like Tom's dog, staring at the sky, seeing things nobody else could see? Around 4 p.m., I noticed something else. The shimmer on my hands seemed to pulse, very faintly, in rhythm with my heartbeat. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but once I noticed it, I couldn't stop watching it. The shimmer would brighten slightly with each pulse, then dim, then brighten again. It was synchronized with my body, integrated. I called Aaron back. "It's pulsing, the stuff on my hands, it's pulsing with my heartbeat." "Jesus, Luke, you need to see a doctor." "What's a doctor going to do, cut it out of me? I don't think it works that way." I flexed my hands again, watching the shimmer pulse. I think it's supposed to do this, like it's some kind of biological marker or tracker." "You're scaring me." "I'm scaring myself." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I felt my anxiety ratchet up. Would it come back? Was last night just the beginning? I was in the barn, feeding the horses, when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Mr. Callahan?" A man's voice, professional and clipped. "This is Captain Richards from Warren Air Force Base. I'd like to ask you a few questions about what you observed last night." My hand tightened on the phone. "How did you get this number?" "Sir, I'd appreciate if you could answer my questions. It's a matter of national security." National security. The words sent a chill through me. "What do you want to know?" "Did you see anything unusual in the sky last night? Approximately between 2 and 3 a.m.? I hesitated. Something about this felt wrong. "What kind of unusual?" "Please answer the question, Mr. Callahan." "Did other people report seeing something?" I asked instead. A pause. "Several individuals have reported unusual phenomena. We're investigating all claims. Now, did you see anything?" "What's your explanation for it?" I pressed. Another, longer pause. "I'm not at liberty to discuss that. Did you see anything? Yes or no?" Every instinct told me to lie, to say no and hang up. But they already knew. That's why they were calling. "Yes," I finally said. "I saw something. A distortion in the sky, above my property." "Distortion," he repeated, like he was taking notes. "Can you describe it in more detail?" I described what I'd seen, the rotation, the light, the hum. I didn't mention Aaron or the metallic coating. Something told me to keep those details to myself. "Thank you, Mr. Callahan," Captain Richards said when I finished. "Have you noticed anything unusual since the incident? Any physical effects, health issues, or anomalies on your property?" "No," I lied smoothly. "Nothing unusual. If you do notice anything, I need you to call this number immediately." He rattled off a phone number. I didn't write it down. "And Mr. Callahan, it's important that you don't discuss what you saw with anyone outside of official channels. We're still investigating, and public speculation could interfere with that investigation." "You're asking me not to talk about this?" "I'm strongly advising it, yes. For your own safety and the safety of others." He hung up before I could respond. I stood there in the barn, phone in hand, feeling like the walls were closing in. The Air Force knew. They were calling witnesses, and they wanted us to stay quiet. That night, I barely slept. Every time I drifted off, I jerked awake, convinced I heard that hum again. Around 2 a.m., I gave up and went downstairs to make coffee. As I stood at the kitchen window, looking out at the dark silhouette of the barn, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A light. Faint, but definitely there, coming from inside the barn. I grabbed my flashlight and headed outside, my heart hammering. I hadn't left any lights on, I was sure of it. As I got closer, I could see the light more clearly. It was coming from the water tank, glowing from within the water itself. I approached slowly, every nerve on edge. The metallic coating on the water's surface was glowing, a soft, blue-green light that pulsed gently. I reached out, about to touch the edge of the tank, when I heard a sound behind me. I spun around, flashlight raised like a weapon. Nothing. Just darkness and the shapes of the barn and equipment. But I had the unmistakable feeling I wasn't alone, that I was being watched. "Hello," I called out, my voice sounding small in the vast Wyoming night. No answer, just the wind picking up, whistling through the barn slats. I backed away from the tank, keeping my flashlight moving, scanning for any movement. The glowing water pulsed behind me, casting strange shadows that seemed to move independently. Then I heard it. Quiet at first, then growing louder. That hum. That same low, persistent hum from last night. It was coming back. I ran. No shame in admitting it. I ran straight for the house, the hum growing louder behind me, filling the air with that same vibration I'd felt the night before. I hit the porch stairs, yanked open the door, and slammed it behind me. My hands shook as I locked the deadbolt. Like that would help. Like a piece of metal could protect me from something that could hover over the entire county. I moved to the living room window. The barn was still there, dark and solid, but above it, barely visible against the night sky, that distortion had returned. Rotating. Silent except for the hum, exactly like before. I grabbed my phone and called Erin. She answered on the first ring. "You're seeing it too," she said. Not a question. "Yeah. How long has it been there?" "I noticed it about 5 minutes ago. Luke, I'm scared." "I know. Me too." I watched the distortion, looking for any change, any indication of what it might do next. "Did the Air Force call you?" "Captain Richards?" "Yeah. He told me not to talk about it." I hung up on him. Despite everything, I almost smiled. That was Erin. "I lied to him," I admitted. "Didn't tell him about the coating." "Good, because I collected some. The stuff from my water tank. I put it in a jar." A pause. "It's glowing, Luke." "Mine too. I just saw it." "What is it?" Her voice cracked slightly. "What is this stuff?" "I don't know, but I think whatever is up there, it's related to this coating, like it left part of itself behind." The thought terrified me even as I said it. Something from that thing, that impossible craft or phenomenon or whatever it was, sitting in jars in our houses, on our roofs, in our water. "The cattle," Erin said suddenly. "Have you checked the cattle? They were drinking that water." My stomach dropped. I hadn't thought of that. "I'll check them now." "I'm coming over," she said. "Erin, no. Stay inside. If something happens, I'm coming over," she repeated firmly. We're not doing this alone." She hung up. I stood there for a moment, phone in hand, then grabbed my jacket and flashlight. The cattle were in the west pasture, about a quarter mile from the house. I'd have to walk past the barn, past that glowing water tank to get to them. The hum was constant now, not pulsing, just there. A background noise that set my teeth on edge. I stepped outside, the September cold biting through my jacket. Above the barn, the distortion continued its slow rotation. I walked quickly, flashlight cutting through the darkness. The barn loomed to my right, and I couldn't help but glance at the water tank as I passed. The glow had intensified, bright enough now that I didn't need my flashlight to see it. The blue-green light cast eerie shadows across the ground. I reached the pasture gate and climbed over. In the distance, I could see the dark shapes of the cattle, clustered together near the far fence line. That was unusual. Normally, they spread out, but tonight they huddled in a tight group, as if seeking protection in numbers. "Hey there," I called out softly, approaching slowly. "Easy." They didn't move, didn't even turn to look at me. They just stood there, pressed together, all facing the same direction, all facing my barn. I came around to the front of the herd, shining my light on them. What I saw made my breath catch. Their eyes were reflecting my light like they always did, but the reflection wasn't the normal white or yellow. It was blue-green, the same color as the glowing water. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I moved closer, shining my light on the nearest cow. Her eyes were open, unblinking, glowing with that impossible color. She was breathing normally, didn't seem distressed, but those eyes... Headlights swept across the pasture. Aaron's truck, pulling up to the gate. She got out and climbed over, walking quickly toward me. "Luke, what's..." She stopped when she saw the cattle. "Oh my God." "They drank the water," I said, my voice hollow. "Whatever that coating is, they drank it." Aaron approached one of the cows, reached out carefully and touched its neck. The cow didn't react. "They're warm, breathing normally. Heart rate feels normal." She looked at me, and in the glow of my flashlight I could see the fear in her eyes. "But their eyes, Luke. What's happening to them?" "I don't know. But I think..." I was cut off by a sound from the direction of the barn. Not the hum. Something else. A crackling noise like electricity arcing. We both turned. The water tank was glowing even brighter now, so bright it hurt to look at directly. And above the barn, the distortion had stopped rotating. "We need to get away from here," Aaron said. "Now." We ran back toward the gate. Behind us, the crackling grew louder, joined by a high-pitched whine that set my teeth on edge. I risked a glance back and wished I hadn't. The water in the tank was rising, not spilling over the sides, rising, floating upward in a column of glowing liquid, defying gravity, reaching toward the distortion above. "What the hell?" Aaron breathed beside me. We stopped at the gate, unable to look away. The column of water rose higher and higher, 50 feet, 100 feet, still perfectly cylindrical, glowing that eerie blue-green. When it reached the distortion, the water spread out across its surface, like someone had poured liquid onto an invisible dome. The sound intensified. Not just the crackling and whining anymore, but something else. A resonance, deep and profound, that I felt in my bones. It was similar to the hum we'd heard that first night, but more complex, layered with harmonics that seemed to carry meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Around us, the air began to change. The temperature dropped rapidly, our breath suddenly visible in thick clouds. But it wasn't just cold. The air felt thicker somehow, harder to pull into my lungs, as if the atmosphere itself was being altered by whatever was happening above us. "Luke, the ground," Aaron said, her voice shaking. I looked down. The earth beneath our feet was vibrating, tiny pebbles dancing in place. Through the pasture I could see the cattle had broken their formation, scattering in all directions, bellowing in panic. But their cries sounded wrong, distorted, like they were coming from underwater or from very far away. The water column began to pulse, contractions moving up its length like a throat swallowing. Each pulse sent a shock wave through the air that we could see, rippling outward in expanding circles, bending the light around them. "We need to close our eyes," I said suddenly. Don't watch this. Whatever it's doing, we shouldn't be seeing it." "What? Why?" "The figure in the circle. It said witness. What if that's what it wants? What if by watching, we're helping it, feeding it somehow?" Erin stared at me for a moment, then understanding dawned in her eyes. "It needs observers. It needs us to see it, to make it more real." So we stopped looking. We turned our backs on the spectacle, but even with my eyes squeezed shut, I could sense what was happening. The light was so bright it shone through my eyelids, painting everything red. The sound grew louder, that deep resonance building and building until I thought my skull would split from the pressure. Then, suddenly, it was absorbed. The distortion seemed to drink the water, pulling it inward, and as it did, the glow intensified until we had to shield our eyes. When the light faded, the water was gone. The tank was bone dry, and the distortion above the barn had changed. Instead of barely visible, it was now clearly defined, a perfect circle of what looked like liquid metal, reflecting the starlight in a way that made my eyes hurt. "Luke," Erin said quietly, "your barn." I looked. The metallic coating on the roof was gone, completely, like it had never been there. "It took it back," I said. "Whatever it left behind, it just took it back." But something else had changed too. The barn itself looked different. Not structurally, but in some way I couldn't define. Like it had been marked, claimed, made into something more than just wood and metal. The shadows around it seemed deeper, more solid, and when I looked at it, I felt a pull, an invitation almost to come closer, to understand what had been done to it. "Don't," Erin said, grabbing my arm. She'd noticed me starting to move toward the barn. "Don't go near it, not now, maybe not ever." She was right. Whatever had happened to my barn, whatever had been done to it during that exchange of water and light and impossible physics, I didn't want to know. Not yet. Maybe not ever. We stood there in silence, watching the thing above my barn. It remained motionless for several minutes, then slowly it began to rise. Up and up, moving faster as it gained altitude, until it disappeared into the night sky. The hum faded with it, leaving behind a silence that felt almost solid. "Is it over?" Erin asked. "I don't know," I answered honestly. We walked back to the barn together, neither of us wanting to be alone. The water tank was indeed empty, not a drop remaining. Even the metal sides were dry, like the water had evaporated instantly. "My tank will be the same," Erin said. "I'd bet anything." She was right. When we drove over to her property 20 minutes later, her water tank was empty too, the metallic coating gone from the roof and every other surface. We checked on her cattle. Same blue-green eyes. Same eerie stillness. Whatever had happened to mine had happened to hers as well. Back at my house, as the sun began to rise for the second day after the incident, we sat at the kitchen table with fresh coffee and exhausted minds. "What do we tell people?" Erin asked. "Nothing," I said. "The Air Force told us not to talk. Maybe they're right. Maybe it's safer if we keep quiet. But the cattle, we watch them," I interrupted. "We monitor them. If they get sick, if something changes, then we decide what to do. But right now..." I shook my head. "Right now, I don't think anyone would believe us anyway." My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Thank you for your cooperation. The situation is under control. Remain vigilant, but do not be alarmed. Further contact is not necessary." I showed it to Erin. She read it and laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "Not be alarmed? Not be alarmed? Luke, our cattle have glowing eyes and something from space just stole water from our tanks." "I know," I said tiredly. "I know." But the message was clear. Whatever was happening, the Air Force knew about it, and they wanted us to stay quiet and stay out of it. The thing is, I wanted to. I wanted to forget everything I'd seen, go back to my normal life, pretend Wyoming was still the safe, isolated place I'd always known it to be. But over the next 3 days, I realized that wasn't going to be possible. Because the cattle weren't the only thing that had changed. The land itself felt different, wrong, like something had shifted in a way I couldn't quite define. And at night, when I looked up at the stars, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was looking back. The cattle's eyes faded back to normal over the next week. Gradually, the blue-green glow diminished until one morning I went out to the pasture and they looked like regular cattle again. Same with Aaron's herd. Whatever that substance was, it had worked its way out of their systems, or absorbed, or hell, I didn't know. I was just relieved. But other things didn't go back to normal. 10 days after the incident, I was repairing a section of fence near the northern boundary of my property when I found the first circle. About 20 feet in diameter, perfectly round, where the grass had turned white. Not dead. White. The blades were still alive, still growing, just completely devoid of color. I called Erin. She drove out and we stood at the edge of the circle, neither of us wanting to step inside it. "Is this from the—" She gestured vaguely upward. "Has to be," I said. "Nothing else makes sense. We should tell someone." "Who?" "The Air Force already told us to keep quiet. And what would we say? Hey, there's a circle of white grass on our property. They'd think we were trying to create crop circles or something." Erin knelt at the edge of the circle and carefully touched one of the white blades. "It feels normal, texture's the same." She plucked it and held it up to the sunlight. But yeah, completely white. Over the next month, I found 6 more circles on my property. Erin found 4 on hers. We documented them, took photos, but told no one. What was the point? The Air Force had made it clear they didn't want us talking. And honestly, after those first few days when everyone in the county was buzzing about the lights, people seemed content to move on. Life returned to normal. The story became just another weird thing that happened one night, already being embellished and distorted in the retelling. Only Erin and I knew the truth, only we carried the weight of what we'd actually experienced. Then, about 6 weeks after the incident, things escalated again. I woke up at 2:13 a.m. to that same hum. Not as loud as before, more like an echo of the original sound. I got up and went to the window, my heart already racing. No distortion in the sky this time, but there was light. A soft glow coming from the direction of the barn. I pulled on clothes and grabbed my flashlight, though I knew I wouldn't need it. As I walked across the yard, I could see the light clearly. It was coming from one of the white circles, the one closest to the barn. The grass was glowing, that same blue-green color as the water had glowed. I approached carefully, keeping my distance. The glow pulsed slowly, like breathing. As I watched, something began to rise from the center of the circle. At first, I thought it was smoke, but it was too substantial for that. It was more like, I don't know how to describe it. Like the air itself was condensing into a shape. The shape grew more defined. Roughly humanoid, about 7 feet tall, but the proportions were wrong. The limbs were too long, the torso too narrow. It had no features that I could make out, just a vaguely person-shaped column of condensed air that distorted the stars behind it. I stood frozen, flashlight dangling from my hand, unable to process what I was seeing. The figure turned toward me. I felt it, even though it had no eyes. Felt its attention, its awareness. For a long moment, we just regarded each other across the glowing circle. Then it spoke. Not out loud. In my head. A voice that wasn't a voice, more like a direct transfer of meaning. Witness. That was all it said. One word, and with that word came a flood of, not exactly images, not exactly feelings, information. Understanding that bypassed language entirely. I understood that the distortion we'd seen wasn't a craft. It was a threshold, a doorway between here and somewhere else, somewhere that didn't follow the same rules as our reality. I understood that the metallic coating wasn't contamination. It was a marker, a way of tagging things, places, making them visible to whatever existed on the other side of that threshold. And I understood that we, all of us who'd been under that distortion, had been marked too. We just couldn't see it the way we'd seen it on the water and the barn roofs. Witness, the figure repeated. Remember. Then it collapsed back into nothing, the glow fading, leaving only the white circle and the Wyoming night. I stood there for a long time, shaking, not from cold, from the weight of what I'd just experienced, what I now knew. I called Erin, woke her up, told her everything. "I'm coming over," she said immediately. "No," I said. "Stay there. I'm okay. I needed to tell someone." "Did it hurt you?" "No. It just wanted me to know. To understand." "Understand what?" I thought about how to explain it. That we're being watched. Not by the Air Force, by whatever exists on the other side of that threshold. We've been marked. I don't know. We're on their radar now. Erin was quiet for a long moment. "What do we do?" "Nothing," I said. "We can't do anything. We just live with it. Remember, like it asked." "Asked?" Erin said. "Luke, that sounds a lot like a command." She was right, of course. It was a command, but delivered with such certainty, such absolute authority, that it didn't feel like I had a choice in whether to obey. After that night, the circles stopped glowing. They remained white, permanent markers on the landscape, but nothing else happened. No more figures, no more hums, just the circles and the memory of what I'd seen. Months passed. Fall turned to winter. Snow covered the circles, made them invisible until spring. Life went on. Erin and I fell into a routine of checking in with each other every few days, making sure we were both okay, both still processing what we'd experienced. The shimmer on my hands had finally faded after about 2 months, disappearing so gradually I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it was gone. But I still felt different, changed in ways I couldn't articulate. Sometimes I'd catch myself standing in the yard, staring up at the sky for minutes at a time, not realizing how long I'd been standing there until my legs started to ache. Erin noticed it too. "You're doing it again," she'd say when she visited. "That thing, the staring. I can't help it," I'd admit. "It's like I'm waiting for something, expecting something. We all are," she'd say. "Everyone who was under it. Tom still checks on his dog every hour, even though it's been acting normal for months now. Sarah Mackenzie told me she wakes up at 2:17 a.m. every single night, exact same time you first heard that hum. It's like we're all stuck in that moment somehow." She was right. The whole county was different now, even if nobody talked about it openly. You could see it in the way people moved, the way they carried themselves. Everyone walked a little faster when they were outside. Everyone kept one eye on the sky, whether they admitted it or not. The Air Force never contacted us again. The story of the lights faded from local conversation, becoming just another weird tale people told at bars or around campfires. But we remembered. How could we not? In February, during a particularly harsh snowstorm, I found something else. I'd gone out to check on the cattle during a brief break in the weather when I noticed something odd about the snow patterns. In certain areas, the snow had melted in perfect circles, revealing the white grass underneath. But there were more circles than I'd documented before. Many more. I spent the next week, after the snow finally melted, mapping them out. What I'd thought were 6 circles turned out to be 17. They'd been there all along. I just hadn't found them all. They formed a pattern across my property, and when I marked them on a map and connected them with lines, they created a geometric shape I didn't recognize. Not a star, not a symbol I'd ever seen before. Just lines and angles that seemed to pull at my eyes when I looked at them too long. I showed the map to Erin. She'd found 11 circles on her property, and when we combined our maps, the pattern extended across both ranches, creating an even larger design. "It's a marker," she said, tracing the lines with her finger. "Not just tagging individual spots, it's marking the whole area, claiming it somehow. Claiming it for what?" She didn't answer. Neither of us wanted to voice what we were both thinking. In March, Mason, Erin's brother, drove out to visit. He'd moved to Denver shortly after the incident. Said he needed to get away from the open sky, needed buildings and lights and people around him. But he was back now, visiting family, and he looked different, older, tired. "I can't stop thinking about it," he admitted over dinner at Erin's place. "The lights, the humming, all of it. I tried therapy, tried medication, nothing works. Because it's not trauma, not in the normal sense, it's knowledge. I know something now that I can't unknow, and I have to live with that every day." "We all do," Erin said softly. "But it's worse for you two," Mason continued. "You were right under it. You touched the stuff it left behind. Luke, Erin told me about your hands, about that shimmer. What if it's still doing something to you? What if it's still there, just invisible now?" I'd thought about that myself, late at night when sleep wouldn't come. What if the shimmer hadn't faded, just become invisible? What if I was still marked, still changed, in ways I couldn't detect? "I got a blood test done," I admitted. "Couple months ago, in Cheyenne where nobody knows me. Told them I'd been exposed to some agricultural chemicals. Wanted to make sure everything was okay." "And?" Mason asked. "Everything came back normal, completely normal. Whatever that stuff was, it doesn't show up in standard blood work." "Maybe because it's not biological," Erin suggested. "Not in a way our tests can measure. Sometimes, late at night, I'd stand on my porch and look up at the stars. And I'd think about thresholds, about doorways between realities, about being marked by something so far beyond human understanding that even seeing it, even experiencing it, didn't grant any real comprehension. I thought about all the stories you hear, all the supposed encounters with unexplained phenomena. How many of them were real? How many other people across the country, across the world, stood on their porches at night looking up at the sky and remembering? In May, something small but significant happened. I was working in the north pasture when I noticed one of the white circles had changed. Not dramatically, but noticeably. The white grass had begun to grow taller than the surrounding green grass, reaching maybe 6 inches higher, and it had started to sway even when there was no wind. I called Erin immediately. "The circles are changing." She drove over within the hour. We stood at the edge of the circle, watching the white grass move in invisible currents. It was hypnotic, almost beautiful, but deeply wrong. "It's like it's breathing," Erin whispered, "or responding to something we can't feel." Over the next month, all 17 circles on my property started showing the same behavior. The grass grew taller, swayed in patterns that didn't match the wind, sometimes seemed to pulse with faint light when viewed in complete darkness. Erin's circles did the same. We documented everything. Photos, videos, detailed notes about the changes. But we told no one. What would be the point? The Air Force had made their position clear. We were on our own with this. It's been almost 2 years now since that first night. The circles are still there on my property and Aaron's, white grass in perfect circles that nothing will grow over or through. We've learned to work around them, to accept them as a permanent part of our landscape. But they're not static. They're alive in some way, changing slowly, responding to rhythms we can't detect. Sometimes I'll go out at night and find them all glowing faintly, pulsing in unison, as if communicating with each other across the dark fields. Sometimes I think about calling someone, the media, a UFO research group, someone who might care about our story. But I never do, because that figure told me to remember, not to speak. And somehow I know the difference matters. Aaron and I don't talk about it much anymore. There's nothing left to say. We experienced something impossible, something that changed our understanding of reality itself. And now we live with that knowledge, that weight. The cattle are fine. The land is fine, aside from the circles. The ranch operates normally. To anyone looking from the outside, nothing has changed. But I know better. Every time I look up at the night sky, I feel it. That sense of being watched, of being remembered, of being marked by something that exists beyond the threshold of our world. Wyoming is still beautiful, still vast and isolated and peaceful. But it's not the same Wyoming I knew before that September night. It can't be, because now I know what's possible. I know what exists just beyond the veil of our normal reality. You ever find something that makes your blood run cold? Something so wrong, so out of place, that your brain refuses to process it at first. That's what happened to me and Nina on October 14th, about 30 miles east of Laramie, on land so remote that cell service is more myth than reality. My name is Grant Avery. I run a small ranch on the edge of Wyoming's Red Desert, where the land is more rock than soil and the sky stretches so wide it makes you feel like an insect. That day, I was checking fence lines on the northern section of my property, the part that borders Bureau of Land Management territory. Nothing but sagebrush, rock formations, and wind for miles in every direction. Nina Crow was with me. She's a wildlife biologist from the university, studying pronghorn migration patterns across the Red Desert. We'd become friends over the past few months, both of us being among the few people who actually chose to spend time in this God-forsaken landscape. The October sun was high and merciless, the kind of light that bleaches color from everything. We'd been driving my ATV along an old service road when Nina grabbed my shoulder. "Stop," she said. "Look." I killed the engine. In the sudden silence, the wind sounded like breathing. About 200 yards off the road, perched on a rise between two rock outcroppings, sat a truck. A Ford F-250, dark blue, maybe 10 years old. Just sitting there, perfectly positioned on flat ground, like someone had carefully parked it. "That wasn't there last week," I said. "I rode this route every week. I would have noticed." "Could be someone broke down," Nina suggested, but her voice held doubt. We approached on foot, leaving the ATV behind. Something about the truck felt wrong. As we got closer, I could see it was in good condition. No visible damage, tires looked fine, windows intact. But the positioning bothered me. The truck faced north toward absolutely nothing. No road, no trail, not even a game path. Just rocky scrubland stretching to the horizon. The driver's side door was open. Nina and I exchanged glances. "Hello?" I called out. My voice seemed to die in the air, swallowed by the vastness around us. No response. just wind and the faint cry of a hawk somewhere overhead. We circled the truck slowly. The bed was empty except for a coil of rope and a spare tire. No signs of a struggle, no blood, nothing disturbed. Through the open door, I could see the keys still in the ignition. And the radio was on. Not playing music. Just static, that white noise hiss that fills empty frequencies. But every few seconds a voice would break through, male, calm, almost mechanical in its delivery. Don't look up at the sky. Static. Don't look up at the sky. Static. Don't look up at the sky. Over and over. The same phrase, the same inflection, like a recording stuck on loop. Nina stepped closer to the door, reaching for the volume knob. "Don't," I said, grabbing her wrist. "Don't touch anything." "Grant, someone might need help. They could be injured out here." She was right, of course. But every instinct I had screamed at me to get away from this truck, to leave it exactly as we found it and never come back. We searched the immediate area, calling out, looking for tracks or any sign of where the driver might have gone. The ground was mostly rock, useless for tracking. In the dirt patches, we found tire tracks leading to the truck's position, but no footprints leading away. "This doesn't make sense," Nina said, standing beside the open door. The radio continued its monotonous warning. "The engine's not running, but the battery's strong enough to power the radio. Hasn't been here long." I checked the registration in the glove box. Truck belonged to a Kenneth Morrison, address in Rollins. That was about 60 miles west of here. "We need to report this," I said. "Get the sheriff out here." Nina nodded, but she was staring at something inside the truck. "Grant, look at the headlight switch." I leaned in. The switch was in the on position. With the engine off, the lights wouldn't be working, but someone had definitely turned them on before leaving. "Maybe they were trying to signal someone," Nina suggested. "Out here? Signal who?" The radio crackled. "Don't look up at the sky." A chill ran down my spine despite the October heat. I straightened up and instinctively looked around. The horizon was empty in every direction. No other vehicles, no structures, no signs of human presence except this truck, with its impossible positioning and its eerie warning. "Let's go," I said. "We'll call the sheriff from the ranch." We started walking back to the ATV. I'd made it maybe 20 feet when curiosity got the better of me. I stopped and looked back at the truck, really examined its position. It was facing north toward a particular section of sky above a distinctive rock formation about 2 miles away. The formation looked like a broken tooth, a single spire of red rock jutting up from the desert floor. And I realized something that made my skin crawl. From where the truck sat, if you turned on the headlights, they would point directly at that rock formation. Not at the base, at the top, at the sky above it. "Nina," I said quietly, "come look at this." She walked back, following my gaze. It took her a moment, but I saw understanding dawn on her face. "The headlights," she said. "They'd be pointing up, at the sky." "Yeah." We stood there in silence, the wind picking up, carrying dust across the barren landscape. The radio continued its warning, quieter now with distance, but still audible. "Don't look up at the sky." "We should really go," Nina said. This time, I agreed without hesitation. The ride back to my ranch took 20 minutes. Neither of us spoke. The radio's message kept playing in my head, synchronized with the rhythm of the ATV's engine. My ranch house sat in a shallow basin, protected from the worst of the wind by low hills on 3 sides. It wasn't much, just a single-story structure, a barn, and a few outbuildings, but it was home. More importantly, it had a landline. I called the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office, explained what we'd found. The dispatcher said they'd send someone out, but it would be a few hours. Nearest deputy was responding to an accident on I-80. They said wait here, I told Nina after hanging up. Give them the exact location when they arrive. Nina was standing at the kitchen window, looking north toward where we'd found the truck. The sun was starting its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful, like Wyoming sunsets always were. Grant, she said softly, about that message. Don't look up at the sky. Why would someone say that? I don't know. And why keep saying it? Like a warning on repeat? I didn't have an answer. We spent the next hour in uncomfortable silence, drinking coffee neither of us wanted, jumping at every sound. The sheriff's deputy finally arrived around 6 p.m., just as the sun touched the horizon. Deputy Martinez was in her 40s, weathered and competent looking. She took our statement, wrote down the location coordinates I provided, and assured us they'd investigate thoroughly. Probably just someone's idea of a joke, she said, though her expression suggested she didn't believe it. Or maybe the driver had some kind of medical emergency, got confused. We'll find them. After she left, Nina stayed for dinner. Neither of us wanted to be alone. We kept the conversation light, avoiding the obvious topic, but as darkness fell completely and the windows became black mirrors reflecting the kitchen light, the unease crept back in. I should get going, Nina finally said around 9 p.m. Got early observations tomorrow. You could stay, I offered. Take the guest room. Roads are dark out here. She hesitated, and I could see her weighing her discomfort about the truck against her discomfort about staying. Finally, she shook her head. Thanks, but I'll be fine. I've driven these roads plenty of times. I walked her out to her Jeep. The night was clear, the stars brilliant in the way they only get in places with no light pollution. A perfect Wyoming night. Nina started her engine, then paused. Grant? That thing the radio kept saying? Yeah. Promise me you won't look up. At the sky, I mean, not tonight. It was an absurd request. Impossible not to look at the sky out here, where it dominated everything. But something in her voice made me nod. I promise. I lied. She drove away, her taillights disappearing down the long access road that connected my property to the county highway. I stood there for a while, listening to the engine noise fade into the vast silence of the desert night. Then, despite my promise, I looked up. The stars stared back, cold and distant and infinite. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. Just the same sky that had been there my entire life. But as I turned to go inside, I could have sworn I heard it. Faint, almost imperceptible beneath the wind. A voice. Don't look up at the sky. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that truck sitting on the rocks, door open, radio playing its endless warning. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and made coffee, sitting at the kitchen table and watching the darkness beyond the windows. Deputy Martinez called at 7:15 a.m. Mr. Avery, we found the truck right where you said. Can you come out here? We have some questions. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. Is everything okay? A pause. Just, come out here, please. I dressed quickly and headed out in my own truck, following the rough track I knew would lead to the location. The morning sun was just beginning to paint the eastern sky, turning the clouds deep pink and orange. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt ominous. 3 sheriff's vehicles were parked near the abandoned truck when I arrived. Deputy Martinez was there, along with 2 other deputies I didn't recognize. They'd strung yellow crime scene tape around the area, which seemed excessive for a simple abandoned vehicle. Mr. Avery, Martinez greeted me. Thanks for coming. We need you to confirm some details. Of course. Did you find the owner? She ignored the question. When you found this truck yesterday, you said the radio was on, correct? Yes. Playing a message on repeat, don't look up at the sky. And the driver's door was open? Yes. Just like it is now. Keys in the ignition? Yes. She nodded slowly, exchanging glances with the other deputies. Mr. Avery, I need you to look at something. Tell me if this is different from how you found it yesterday. She led me closer to the truck. In the morning light, I could see details I'd missed before. The paint was faded but intact. Wyoming plates, current registration sticker. Nothing remarkable, except for the windshield. The entire inside surface was covered in writing. Marker, maybe, or crayon. Words scrawled in frantic loops and spirals overlapping each other, barely legible. I had to get close to read them. Don't look up at the sky. Don't look up at the sky. Don't look up at the sky. Don't look up. Don't look up at the sky. Don't look up. Over and over. Hundreds of repetitions, filling every inch of glass. This wasn't here yesterday, I said, my mouth dry. The windshield was clean. I saw through it. There was nothing on it. You're certain? Absolutely certain. Martinez nodded again, that same grim expression. We thought so. We were here until after midnight last night. Documented everything. The windshield was clean at 11 p.m. when we left. This morning at 6 a.m. when we returned, it looked like this. Someone came back, I said. Wrote all over it during the night. That's what we thought too, except she gestured to the ground around the truck. No new tracks. The only tracks are from our vehicles and the original truck. No footprints approaching or leaving. It's like the writing just appeared. I stared at the frantic script covering the glass. The handwriting got more desperate toward the edges, the letters more jagged, more urgent. What about the radio? I asked. Still playing the message? Battery's dead now. Ran down overnight. But we recorded it before it died. Same message, same voice, exact same intervals. No variation at all. Like it really was just a recording playing on loop. One of the other deputies approached, a younger man who looked like he hadn't slept. Found the owner's information. Kenneth Morrison, 53, lives in Rollins. Called his house. Wife says he left 4 days ago to go hunting. Solo trip. She hasn't heard from him since. 4 days? I said. But this truck wasn't here last week. I drive past this spot every week. That's what we're trying to figure out, Martinez said. She looked up at the sky, squinting against the morning sun. Did you notice anything unusual yesterday, before you found the truck? Any strange lights, sounds, anything? No, it was a normal day until we found this. And you didn't look up, she said. At the sky, I mean. After you heard the warning. The way she said it made something click. You think the warning is real. You think something's up there. I think we have a missing person and a vehicle that appeared overnight with no tracks leading to it. I think the owner or someone left a warning that got more desperate as time went on. And I think, she trailed off, jaw tight. What? Last night, around 2 a.m., we got a call. Someone about 10 miles west of here reported strange lights. Not moving, just hovering. Said they watched them for about 20 minutes before they disappeared. She pulled out her phone and showed me a map. Right here. Directly between this truck and that rock formation it's facing. I looked at the broken tooth of rock in the distance, then back at the truck with its headlights aimed at the sky above it. You think Kenneth Morrison was trying to shine his lights at something? I said slowly. Something in the sky. I think Kenneth Morrison was trying to survive, Martinez replied. And I think whatever he saw he wanted to warn people about. A chill ran through me despite the warming morning air. Have you looked for him, Morrison? Got search and rescue coming out this afternoon. But Mr. Avery, she gestured at the vast emptiness surrounding us. This is a lot of territory, and if he didn't want to be found, or if something didn't want him found, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. I spent another hour answering questions, going over every detail of finding the truck. By the time they let me go, the sun was high and hot, burning away the early morning chill. As I drove back to the ranch, I kept checking my rearview mirror as if something might be following me. The message was still playing in my head. Don't look up at the sky. Like a song you can't stop humming. I tried calling Nina when I got home, but it went straight to voicemail. Probably out in the field, outside cell range. I left a message asking her to call me back. The day dragged. I tried to focus on ranch work, but my mind kept drifting back to that truck, to the writing on the windshield, to Kenneth Morrison somewhere out in the rocks. Had he walked away? Been taken? And by what? Around 4 p.m. my phone rang. Not Nina. Deputy Martinez. Mr. Avery, I need you to be honest with me. Have you experienced anything unusual today? Seen or heard anything that didn't make sense? No, I said. Why? We found something. Another vehicle. Different location about 15 miles southeast of the Morrison truck. Same setup, door open, radio on, same message playing. My grip tightened on the phone. Who? We're still working on ID, but Grant, the headlights were on. Engine wasn't running, but the headlights were on, pointing up at the sky. And they shouldn't have had enough battery to stay on this long. I walked to my kitchen window, looking out at the afternoon sky. Clear blue, not a cloud in sight. How many vehicles are we talking about? I asked. So far, 3. But we're getting reports of more. People calling in about finding abandoned trucks and cars, all in remote areas. All with the doors open and the radios playing the same warning. Jesus, how is this possible? I don't know. But Grant, I need you to stay alert. Lock your doors tonight. And whatever you do, don't look up at the sky, I finished. Yeah, she said quietly. Don't look up at the sky. After she hung up, I went through the house securing every window, checking every lock. It felt absurd, like locking the doors would matter against whatever could make vehicles appear out of nowhere and write messages on windshields with no one touching them. The sun began to set, painting the desert in shades of red and gold. Beautiful and terrible at once. I made dinner, but barely touched it. Every few minutes I'd catch myself glancing at the windows, at the darkening sky beyond. Nina finally called back around 8 p.m. Sorry, was out of range all day, she said. Got your message. What's going on? I told her everything. The writing on the windshield, the other vehicles, Martinez's warning. She listened in silence. Grant, she said when I finished. I found something today, out near Dead Horse Draw, another truck. I didn't approach it, just marked the location and got out of there, but I could hear the radio from 50 yards away. Did you tell the sheriff? Called it in an hour ago. They're stretched thin, said they'd get to it tomorrow. A pause. I'm scared, Grant. This isn't normal. This isn't explainable. I know. I keep thinking about what Morrison did. Setting up his truck to point the lights at the sky, like he was trying to signal someone, or ward something off, or... She trailed off. What if he saw something? What if that's why he left the warning? Then we follow his warning, I said. We don't look up. But even as I said it, I knew it was impossible. The sky was everywhere out here. You couldn't not see it. After we hung up, I sat in the living room with all the lights on, trying to read, trying to distract myself. The house creaked and settled around me, every sound making me jump. Outside, the Wyoming night pressed against the windows, vast and dark and full of things I didn't want to think about. Around 11 p.m., the power went out. 1 second, the house was bright and normal. The next, pitch darkness. Complete and total. The kind of dark you only get in remote places miles from any other light source. I fumbled for my phone, using its flashlight to navigate to the breaker box. But before I got there, I heard something that stopped me cold. A vehicle engine. Getting closer. I went to the front window and carefully looked out. Headlights were coming up my access road, moving slowly. As they got closer, I could make out the shape. A truck. Dark blue Ford F-250. Morrison's truck. It rolled to a stop about 50 feet from my house. The engine cut off. The headlights stayed on, angled up, pointing at the sky above my roof. And the radio started playing, loud enough that I could hear it through the walls. Don't look up at the sky. My hands shook as I reached for my phone to call 911. But before I could dial, the front door started to rattle. Not like someone was trying to force it open. Like someone was knocking, hard and insistent and wrong. I backed away from the door, the phone slipping from my hand. The knocking continued, rhythmic and terrible. Then it stopped. The house went silent. Even the radio had quit. I stood there in the darkness, listening to my own heartbeat, waiting for whatever would happen next. That's when I heard it. A voice from outside, right at my door. Calm, mechanical, familiar. Don't look up at the sky. And despite every instinct, despite every warning, I looked up at the ceiling, as if I could see through it to the sky above. That was my first mistake. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in the dark, staring up at my ceiling. Could have been seconds. Could have been minutes. Time felt wrong, elastic, like reality itself was coming loose at the seams. The knocking started again, harder this time, more insistent. I grabbed my phone off the floor where I'd dropped it and called Martinez. It rang once, then went to a fast, busy signal. Tried again. Same result. Tried Nina. Same thing, no service. Out here in the middle of nowhere, that wasn't unusual. But the timing felt deliberate, like something had cut me off from the world. The knocking stopped. Outside, I could hear the truck's engine idling. The headlights still pointed up, casting their glow into the night sky above my house. Through the front window, I could see their beams cutting through the darkness. Solid-looking columns of light reaching toward the stars. I made my way to the kitchen, grabbing a flashlight and my grandfather's old shotgun from the closet. The weight of it was reassuring, even though I had no idea what I'd be shooting at. My plan was simple. Get to my own truck, drive to town, get help. The power being out could be explained. Old infrastructure, remote location. But Morrison's truck rolling up to my house on its own? That wasn't explainable. That wasn't possible. I unlocked the back door as quietly as I could and slipped out into the night. The October air was cold now, frost already forming on the grass. My breath came out in visible puffs. The stars overhead were brilliant, thousands of them. The Milky Way, a river of light across the sky. Don't look up. I kept my eyes on the ground, on my truck parked near the barn, 30 yards away. Each step felt too loud, my boots crunching on the gravel. I was halfway there when Morrison's truck revved its engine. Once, twice. Like a warning. I broke into a run, covering the last 20 yards in seconds. Fumbled with my keys, dropped them, grabbed them, finally got the door open. Threw myself inside and locked the doors. The engine turned over once, twice. Caught. Relief flooded through me. Then my headlights came on. I hadn't touched the switch. The lights just came on by themselves. And like Morrison's truck, they were angled wrong. Not pointing forward at the road, pointing up at the sky. I tried to turn them off, but the switch wouldn't move. Tried to put the truck in gear, but the transmission was locked. The engine purred smoothly, the dashboard lights glowed normally, but I had no control, none at all. Through the windshield, I could see both sets of headlights now, mine and Morrison's, both pointed up, illuminating the same patch of empty sky. And that's when I saw it. Something was wrong with the stars. In the area where both headlight beams converged, the stars looked different, distorted, like looking at them through water, or heat shimmer, or something I didn't have words for. The distortion grew larger, spreading slowly across the sky. It didn't block out the stars so much as change them, made them look wrong. And the longer I looked, the more I could see something in the distortion. Not a shape exactly, more like the suggestion of something vast, something that made my eyes hurt and my brain rebel. I tore my gaze away, looking down at my lap, breathing hard. Don't look up. Don't look up at the sky. Morrison had known. He'd tried to warn everyone, and now his truck was here forcing me to light up the sky to reveal whatever was up there. My radio crackled to life. No warning message this time, just static at first, then a sound that made every hair on my body stand up. Breathing. Slow, deliberate, too loud. And behind it, something else. A humming, maybe, or a vibration I felt more than heard. A voice came through the static. Not mechanical this time. Human. Terrified. It sees us when we look. Don't give it eyes. Don't look up. Don't look. The voice cut off with a sound that might have been a scream, or might have been static. Then silence. My truck's engine died. The headlights stayed on for a moment longer, then flickered out, plunging everything into darkness except for Morrison's truck, still idling, still pointing its lights at the sky. I sat there trying to decide what to do. Stay in the truck? Run for the house? The barn? Every option felt wrong, felt like a trap. Then the lights from Morrison's truck began to dim. Not flickering, just slowly fading, like something was absorbing them. The beams got shorter and shorter, until they barely extended 20 feet. But the distortion in the sky kept growing, spreading like ink in water. I made a decision. I grabbed my flashlight and the shotgun and ran for the barn. It was solid, built from thick timber and stone, with small windows and a root cellar underneath. If I was going to make a stand, that was the place. The barn door was unlocked. I yanked it open and stumbled inside, immediately moving to close it behind me. But before I could, I heard something that stopped me. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the direction of Morrison's truck. I clicked off my flashlight and pressed myself against the wall, peering through the crack of the open door. A figure was walking across my yard. Human-shaped, but the proportions were wrong. Too tall, limbs too long. It moved with an odd gait, like it was learning how to walk. Each step was carefully placed, deliberate. It was heading straight for my house. I watched, frozen, as it approached the back door I'd left from. It stopped there, cocking its head like a dog hearing a sound. Then it turned, and even though I couldn't see details in the darkness, I felt it looking at the barn. Looking at me. Don't move, I told myself. Don't breathe. Don't look up. The figure started moving again, toward the barn. I closed the door as quietly as I could and locked it, knowing how useless that would be. Then I ran for the root cellar, yanking open the trapdoor and climbing down the wooden ladder into the earth. The cellar was maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, carved out of the rock beneath the barn. My grandfather had built it as storm shelter and cold storage. Stone walls, stone ceiling, one way in and out. A trap, really. But right now, with that thing approaching, All I wanted was walls between me and it. I pulled the trapdoor closed above me and sat in the darkness, shotgun across my lap, flashlight off to preserve the battery. The air smelled of earth and old potatoes. Above me, I heard footsteps in the barn. Slow, patient, searching. I held my breath, listening. The footsteps moved around, pausing here and there, looking for me. Then they stopped, right above the trapdoor. I could hear breathing now. That same, too loud breathing from the radio. It knew I was here. It was standing right above me, separated only by a wooden trapdoor and a few feet of air. Seconds stretched, minutes, an hour. I lost track of time, sitting there in the dark, waiting. Then the breathing stopped. The footsteps moved away toward the barn door. I heard it open, heard it close. Silence returned. I waited longer, much longer. My legs cramped, my back ached, but I didn't move, didn't risk it. Finally, when I couldn't stand it anymore, I clicked on my flashlight and carefully climbed the ladder. I pressed my ear against the trap door, listening for any sound. Nothing. I pushed the door open, half expecting something to be waiting, but the barn was empty. I emerged slowly, sweeping the flashlight across the space. My tools hung on their hooks. The old tractor sat in the corner, everything normal. I went to the barn's small window and looked out at my house. Morrison's truck was gone. My truck sat dark and silent where I'd left it. The night was still and quiet, stars shining overhead like nothing had happened. But something had happened, and I knew, with absolute certainty, that it wasn't over. I spent the rest of the night in the barn, sitting on a bale of hay with the shotgun across my lap, jumping at every sound. The hours crawled by with excruciating slowness, every creak of the old timber, every rustle of wind through the cracks in the walls sent my adrenaline spiking. Around 4 a.m., I heard something else. A voice, distant but clear, carrying across the empty desert. It sounded like Nina calling my name. But Nina was miles away at her camp. Unless she'd driven here. Unless she was outside right now, looking for me. Grant, please help me. My hand tightened on the shotgun. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. But what if it really was her? What if she'd tried to reach me and gotten caught in whatever was happening? I moved to the barn's small window and looked out carefully. Nothing. Just darkness and the silhouettes of my house and truck against the starlit sky. Grant, it's following me, please. The voice was coming from the direction of the northern property line, where we'd found Morrison's truck. I could hear panic in it, genuine terror. It sounded exactly like Nina. I stood there, torn. Logic said, stay hidden. Emotion said, go help. The voice called out again, more desperate this time, and I made a decision I'd later regret. I pushed open the barn door and stepped out into the night, shotgun ready, flashlight sweeping the darkness. The temperature had dropped further, my breath coming out in thick clouds. Frost crunched under my boots. Nina, I called. Where are you? Grant, oh thank God, I'm by the old fence line. My ankle, I think it's broken. I can't walk. I started moving in that direction, every sense on high alert. The stars overhead were still wrong, constellations I didn't recognize, but I kept my eyes on the ground. Don't look up, don't give it more attention. As I got closer to the fence line, I realized something was off. The voice was always the same distance away no matter how far I walked, like it was moving backward at the exact pace I was moving forward. I stopped. Nina, stay where you are. I'm coming to you. Hurry, Grant. It's here. It's right above me. Don't look up, but it's there. That's when I knew. Nina would never tell me not to look up and then tell me where the thing was. She'd know that would make me want to look. This wasn't Nina. It never had been. I turned and ran back toward the barn. Behind me, the voice changed. No longer pleading, no longer frightened. Now it was laughing. That same wrong laughter I'd heard before, but worse. Multiple voices laughing in unison, creating a sound that seemed to come from the earth and sky simultaneously. I didn't look back, just ran, covering the distance to the barn in what felt like seconds, but might have been minutes. Time was still wrong out here, still elastic and unreliable. When I reached the barn, I slammed the door and locked it, breathing hard. Outside, the laughter continued for a few more seconds, then stopped abruptly, leaving only silence. I checked my watch, 4:47 a.m. Dawn was maybe an hour away. I just had to hold out until then. I went back to the root cellar, feeling safer underground, and waited. My phone was down to 3% battery. I turned it off completely to save what little power remained. In the darkness of the cellar, I thought about Morrison, about how he'd lasted 3 days in his truck before whatever happened to him happened. 3 days of broadcasting his warning, trying to save people. And in the end, it hadn't mattered. He'd looked up. Everyone looks up eventually. I thought about Nina too, wherever she really was. Had she looked up? Was she gone like Morrison, transformed into one of those things? Or was she still out there hiding, fighting the same battle I was? The minutes ticked by. I counted them in my head, trying to stay focused, trying not to let my mind wander to what might be waiting above ground. Finally, when my internal clock said it had to be close to dawn, I climbed back up the ladder and carefully pushed open the trap door. The barn was still dark, but I could see the faintest hint of gray light through the cracks in the walls. Dawn was coming. I waited another 15 minutes, watching that gray light slowly brighten, before I dared to open the barn door. When the sun finally rose, painting the eastern sky pink and gold, I felt a relief so profound it made me dizzy. The nightmare was over, for now, at least. I walked back to the house in the morning light. Everything looked normal, peaceful. The only evidence that anything unusual had happened was my truck, sitting with the driver's door still open, and Morrison's truck, which was now back in its original position near my house, as if it had never left. Inside the house, the power was back on. My phone had service again. I plugged it in to charge and saw I had 17 missed calls, all from the same number, Deputy Martinez. I called her back. "Grant?" She sounded exhausted. "Thank God. Are you okay?" I think so. What happened?" "What happened is we found 11 more vehicles last night, all in a radius around your property, all with the same setup. And Grant," she paused, "we found Kenneth Morrison." My stomach dropped. "Is he alive?" "No, he was in his truck, the one that was at the original location. He was behind the wheel like he'd been driving, but there's no way. We had that truck under surveillance. No one could have gotten in or out." "What killed him?" Another pause. "The coroner says cardiac arrest, but Grant, his eyes were open, and according to the report, he was looking up at the sky." I closed my own eyes, a wave of nausea rolling over me. "There's something else," Martinez continued. "We checked the surveillance footage from last night. The truck Morrison was found in, it wasn't there at midnight when we last checked. It appeared sometime between 2 and 3 a.m., just materialized. No one drove it there. It was just there." "What the hell is going on?" I asked. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's centered on your area. Every vehicle we've found is within 20 miles of your ranch. The FAA is reporting some kind of radar anomaly in the sky above this region. They can't explain it." She took a breath. "Grant, I think you need to leave. Get away from there for a while. And go where? If this thing can make trucks appear out of nowhere, what's going to stop it from following me?" I could hear the helplessness in her silence. "I'll be careful," I said. "I'll keep my eyes down." After we hung up, I stood at my kitchen window, looking out at the beautiful Wyoming morning. The sky was clear and blue and infinite. It should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a threat, like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. I tried calling Nina. No answer. Tried again an hour later. Still nothing. At noon, I got in my truck, planning to drive to her research camp. But when I turned the key, nothing happened. Dead battery. No, not dead. The dome light worked. The radio came on. Everything had power except the engine. I tried my ATV. Same thing. Started right up, but when I put it in gear, nothing. The transmission wouldn't engage. I was trapped on my property, with something in the sky that was changing the rules of reality, one vehicle at a time. As the afternoon wore on, I noticed something else. The shadows were wrong. They fell at angles that didn't match the sun's position. And when I looked at them too long, they seemed to move independently, stretching and contracting like living things. I stopped looking at shadows after that. By evening, I was barricaded in my house, every curtain closed, every door and window locked. I kept the lights on and the radio off, sat at my kitchen table with the shotgun and waited. For what, I wasn't sure. When night fell, I didn't look at the windows, didn't check outside. I just sat there, staring at my hands, listening to the house settle around me. That's when I heard the engines. Multiple vehicles, approaching from different directions. I counted at least 5, maybe more. The knocking started again. At the front door, the back door, the windows, and from outside, in perfect unison, multiple voices. Don't look up at the sky. I spent that night in my basement, a space I'd converted into a workshop. No windows, thick walls. One entrance from inside the house. I pushed my tool bench against the door and sat in the corner with the shotgun, flashlight, and my phone, which had somehow maintained signal. The knocking continued upstairs for hours. Patient, rhythmic, never stopping. And through it all, those voices speaking in unison. Don't look up at the sky. Around 3 a.m., I called Martinez again. She answered immediately. "Grant, where are you?" "Basement. There are vehicles outside my house. Multiple trucks. They've been here for hours." "I know. We can see them on satellite. We have units trying to reach you, but..." She trailed off. "But what?" "Every time we get within 5 miles of your property, our vehicles die. Just like yours. We've tried 4 different times. It's like there's a barrier, something preventing anyone from getting in or out." I closed my eyes, breathing slowly. What does that mean? It means you're on your own until we figure this out. The Air Force has been notified. They're sending a team from Warren. When? Tomorrow morning. Can you hold out until then? Do I have a choice? After she hung up, I sat in the darkness, listening to the sounds above me. The knocking had stopped, but I could hear movement. Footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving through my house. How many of them were up there? How many of those things had emerged from the trucks? My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Stop shining lights at the sky. You're calling it KM, Kenneth Morrison. But he was dead. Martinez had said they found his body." Another text. "It feeds on attention. Every time you look up, you give it strength. Stop looking. Stop everyone from looking." I typed back, "How? How do I stop it?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. The vehicles, their conduits, destroy them, cut off its eyes. Before I could respond, the basement lights went out. Emergency power should have kicked in, but nothing happened. Total darkness except for my phone's screen. I turned on my flashlight, sweeping it around the basement. Shadows leaped and danced. In the corner, near the furnace, something moved. I brought the flashlight and shotgun up together, my hands shaking. The shadow pulled back, retreating from the light. But I could see it, a shape that looked almost human, but wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. "Get out," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Get out of my house." The shadow didn't move. It just stood there, at the edge of my flashlight beam, watching me. Then it spoke, Kenneth Morrison's voice coming from something that wasn't Kenneth Morrison. I tried to warn everyone. I stayed in my truck for 3 days, broadcasting the warning, but they kept looking up. They couldn't help themselves. A pause. "It's so vast, Grant, so old. It's been up there forever, waiting for us to finally see it. And now, we have." "What is it?" I asked. "Something that shouldn't exist in our sky. Something that changes the rules when you acknowledge it. The more people look, the more real it becomes, the more solid, the more here." The shadow moved closer. I could see details now. It wore Morrison's clothes, had Morrison's build. But the proportions were stretched, distorted, like a photograph pulled too thin. "The vehicles," it continued, "they're its way of forcing people to look. Everyone who finds an abandoned truck stops, investigates, and eventually they look up. They can't help it, it's human nature. How do I stop it?" "You can't, it's too late. Too many people have looked. Too many eyes feeding it, making it real. By tomorrow, it'll be visible without looking up. By next week, the whole country will see it. By next month." The shadow thing that wore Morrison's shape laughed, a sound like wind through empty buildings. "By next month, it won't just be in the sky, it'll be here. Really here. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to prepare you, because you're going to join us soon. Everyone will. We're all going to be part of it, added to its collection. All the people who looked up, all the vehicles it claimed, all the warnings that no one listened to. We'll all be here together on the other side of the sky." The shadow reached toward me. I pulled the trigger. The shotgun blast was deafening in the enclosed space, the muzzle flash blinding. The shadow jerked back and dissipated like smoke. But I could hear it laughing as it faded, that same hollow sound. I didn't wait to see if it would reform. I grabbed my phone and flashlight, kicked aside the tool bench, and ran upstairs. The house was dark, but I could see light coming from outside. Not normal light. That same wrong light I'd seen from the distortion in the sky. I went to the front window and looked out. The yard was full of vehicles, dozens of them. Trucks, cars, even a school bus, all arranged in a circle around my house. Their headlights were on, all pointed up at the same spot in the sky. And the sky was opening. That's the only way I can describe it. The distortion had grown so large it covered half the visible sky, and it was peeling back like a wound, revealing something behind it. Something vast and wrong, and looking down at me with interest I could feel pressing against my mind. I forced myself to look away, to look down at the ground. Don't look up. Don't give it more attention. But I could feel it. Feel its presence, its weight, pushing down on reality like a hand pressing against paper, threatening to tear through. My phone rang. Nina. "Grant!" She sounded terrified, out of breath. "Grant, I can see it from my camp. The whole sky is wrong. What's happening?" "Where are you, exactly?" "Dead Horse Draw, about 10 miles northeast of you. I tried to drive out, but my Jeep died. I'm on foot, heading for the highway." "No," I said urgently. "Don't go anywhere open. Find shelter. Something with a roof, walls, and whatever you do, don't look up," she finished. "I know. Grant, I can feel it. Like it's inside my head, trying to make me look. It's taking everything I have to keep my eyes down. Through the window, I watched as one by one, the vehicle headlights began to flicker, not dying, pulsing, like a heartbeat, or like something breathing. Nina, the vehicles are the key, Morrison told me. They're conduits. We have to destroy them. How? There's got to be 100 of them spread across the county by now. She was right. Even if I could destroy the ones in my yard, there were dozens more. And every hour more appeared. More people stopped to investigate, more people looked up, more fuel for whatever was breaking through the sky. I don't know, I admitted. But I have to try. If I can take out the ones here, maybe it'll weaken it. Buy us time for help to arrive. Grant, don't be stupid. You can't go out there. I don't have a choice. It's getting stronger every minute. By morning, a sound cut me off. A deep thrumming that I felt in my chest, coming from everywhere and nowhere. The vehicle's headlights pulsed faster in response. It's almost through, Nina said quietly. Oh God, Grant, it's almost here. We stayed on the phone together, both of us hiding in our separate locations, listening to the sound of reality being rewritten. The thrumming grew louder, deeper, until it was all I could hear. Then, suddenly, it stopped. Complete silence. Even the wind had died. I risked a glance at the window. The vehicles were still there, but their lights had gone out. The sky looked normal. Stars shining, moon bright, nothing wrong. Nina, I said into the phone, you still there? Yeah, Grant, the feeling's gone. That pressure, that weight, it just stopped. What does that mean? Neither of us had an answer. I spent the rest of the night awake, watching the yard, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. The vehicles sat silent and dark. The sky remained clear. When the sun rose, painting everything in shades of pink and gold, I finally let myself breathe. My phone rang. Martinez. Grant, the barrier's down. We're on our way to you. Are you okay? I think so. It stopped. Whatever was happening, it just stopped. We know. Every vehicle simultaneously went dark around 4 a.m., like someone flipped a switch. Air Force says the radar anomaly is gone too. I walked outside into the morning light. The vehicles were still there, arranged in their circle, but they looked different now. Normal. Just abandoned trucks and cars, nothing sinister about them. But as I walked among them, I noticed something. Every single one had writing on the inside of the windshield. The same frantic message, repeated thousands of times. Don't look up at the sky. Sheriff's Department arrived an hour later, along with Air Force personnel and a team from some government agency that wouldn't identify itself. They spent 3 days on my property, documenting everything, asking questions I couldn't answer. They found DNA in several of the vehicles, but no bodies. The people who'd been driving them were just gone, including, they eventually determined, Nina. Her Jeep was found at Dead Horse Draw, door open, radio dead. But Nina wasn't there. I tried to tell them about the phone call, about talking to her that last night. They said it was impossible. According to their records, Nina's phone had been offline for 12 hours before that call. Wherever that call had come from, it wasn't from Nina. They asked if I'd looked up at the sky that night. I lied and said no. I don't know why. Maybe because I was afraid of what they'd do if I admitted it. Maybe because I was afraid they'd see something in me, some change I hadn't noticed yet. The vehicles were eventually towed away, tagged as evidence in an ongoing investigation. The Air Force took soil samples, radiation readings, everything they could measure. They found nothing unusual. According to every test they ran, nothing out of the ordinary had happened. But I knew better. I'd been there. I'd seen what they refused to see. Before they left, one of the Air Force officers pulled me aside. He was older, maybe 50, with the kind of weathered face that spoke of years of keeping secrets. "Mr. Avery," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something off the record." I waited. This isn't the first time. Wyoming, Montana, parts of Colorado and New Mexico. We've had reports like this for decades. Vehicles appearing out of nowhere, messages warning people not to look up, missing persons, and always that radar anomaly. He glanced at the sky, then quickly back at me. "We can't explain it. We've tried. Best minds in the country have looked at this data, and we still don't understand what it is or where it comes from." "Then what do we do?" I asked. "We survive, we adapt, we learn not to look up." He handed me a card with a phone number on it. "If it happens again, if you see the vehicles, hear the voices, feel that presence, you call this number immediately. Don't wait. Don't try to handle it yourself. Will anyone come?" He was silent for a moment. "Honestly, I don't know. The barrier that forms around these events, it's like nothing we've ever seen. It's like reality itself rejects our attempts to intervene. But we'll try. That's all I can promise." After they left, the ranch felt emptier than it ever had. The silence was different now, heavier, laden with the memory of what had happened. I'd catch myself listening for the sound of engines, for that voice saying, "Don't look up at the sky," even though I knew, hoped it was over. The first week was the hardest. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Morrison's truck rolling up to my house. I saw that figure with the wrong proportions walking across my yard. I heard Nina's voice calling for help when Nina might already be gone. I started keeping a journal, documenting everything I remembered. Not because I thought anyone would believe me, but because I needed to externalize it, to get it out of my head. Writing it down made it feel less like madness, more like something that had actually happened. Deputy Martinez called every few days, checking in. She never said it directly, but I could tell she was struggling too. She'd been at ground zero of this thing, had seen the vehicles multiply, had watched the radar anomaly grow. She knew the truth, even if the official reports would never reflect it. "How are you sleeping?" she asked during one call. "I'm not," I admitted. "Yeah, me neither." A pause. "Grant, I need to tell you something about Nina. Her mother called me yesterday. She's planning a memorial service next month. There's no body, but she needs closure. She asked if you'd say something." My throat tightened. What would I say? I don't know. The truth, that she died doing what she loved. That she was studying the desert and something happened we can't explain? You mean lie. I mean give her mother some peace, because the truth, the real truth, won't help anyone. She was right, of course, but it felt wrong. Nina deserved better than comfortable lies. But they didn't look at the sky above my property. Not once, in all the time they were there. Not directly. I noticed how they kept their eyes on the ground, on their equipment, on each other. Never up. They knew. They knew something was there, something that was waiting for the right moment to be seen again. It's been 6 months now. The investigation was quietly closed. The missing persons cases remain unsolved. The vehicles were returned to their families, who probably wonder why the windshields had to be replaced. I still live on the ranch. Where else would I go? This is my home, my land. But things are different now. I keep the curtains closed at night. I don't go out after dark if I can help it. And I never, ever look directly at the sky. Sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, I hear vehicles approaching. Their engines idling, their headlights turning on, pointing up. I stay inside until morning, and by then, they're always gone. Other people in the county report similar things. Vehicles appearing and disappearing, that feeling of being watched from above. But no one talks about it openly. It's become this understood thing, this shared experience we don't acknowledge. Deputy Martinez visits sometimes. She doesn't ask questions anymore, just sits on my porch, drinking coffee, making small talk. But I notice how she positions herself, how she always keeps the roof of the porch between her and the open sky. Last week, I got a text from Nina's number, just 4 words. I saw it, amazing. I didn't respond. I deleted the message and blocked the number. Because whatever sent that text, it wasn't Nina. Nina knew better than to look. Sometimes I dream about that night, about the vehicles in a circle, their lights pointing up, about the sky peeling back like a wound. And in those dreams, I look up. I can't help myself, and I see what's there, what's been waiting all along. When I wake up, I check my eyes in the mirror looking for any sign of that blue-green glow the cattle had. So far, they're normal, but I keep checking. Every day, just to be sure, because I know the truth that Kenneth Morrison learned in those 3 days in his truck, broadcasting his warning that no one heeded. The sky isn't empty. It never was. We just weren't supposed to look. And now that we have, now that enough eyes have fed it and made it real, it's not going away. It's just waiting. Patient. Eternal. Waiting for the next time someone can't help themselves. Waiting for the next time someone looks up. I tell you this story not as a warning. It's too late for warnings. I tell it as a record, as documentation, because when it finally breaks through, when enough people look up and give it the strength it needs, someone should know how it started. You ever notice how quiet the night can get out here? I mean, really quiet. The kind of silence that makes you aware of your own heartbeat, your own breathing. That's Wyoming for you. Specifically, that's the Red Desert in late November, when the temperature drops below freezing and the wind finally stops its endless howling. My name is Ben Harlow. I've been working as a ranch hand for the Kirkland family for about 3 years now, living in a small trailer on the edge of their property, 40 miles from the nearest town. It's isolated, sure, but I like it that way. Always have. The solitude, the space, the sky so big it makes you feel like you're looking at infinity. That's what Sadie Lane said she loved about this place, too. The sky. Sadie was a photographer from Boulder, Colorado. She'd driven out to Wyoming chasing dark sky locations, places with zero light pollution where she could capture the Milky Way in all its glory. She'd found the Kirkland Ranch through some online forum for astrophotographers, and Mrs. Kirkland, always happy for extra income, had agreed to let her camp on the property for a week. I met Sadie on November 18th, a Tuesday. She showed up around 2 p.m. in a Subaru packed with camera equipment, camping gear, and enough coffee to fuel a small army. She was maybe 30, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and the kind of excitement in her eyes that comes from doing something you love. "Ben?" she called out, as I was working on the fence near the access road. "Mrs. Kirkland said you'd show me where I can set up." I pointed her toward a flat area about half a mile from my trailer, well away from any structures that might create light pollution. It was a good spot, elevated slightly, with a clear view of the entire sky from horizon to horizon. "Perfect," Sadie said, surveying the location. "This is exactly what I need. New moon in 3 days. Should get some incredible shots. You do this a lot?" I asked. "As much as I can. I've photographed dark skies all over the West. Utah, Nevada, Arizona. But Wyoming?" She looked up at the afternoon sky, already that deep blue that comes before the cold snap of winter. "Wyoming's special. The air's thinner here, clearer. and there's something about the vastness that makes the stars feel closer. I helped her set up her tent, a professional-grade structure that could handle the Wyoming wind. She had 3 cameras, a tracking mount, a laptop, and more equipment I didn't recognize. This wasn't amateur hour. This was serious work. "You ever look at the stars much?" she asked as we worked. "Some. Hard not to out here. Ever see anything weird?" The question caught me off guard. Weird how? She shrugged, but something in her expression said the question wasn't casual. Just weird. Things that don't move like planes or satellites. Things that move wrong. "Can't say I have," I answered honestly. "Good," she said, and I couldn't tell if she was relieved or disappointed. The next few days passed normally. Sadie spent her daylight hours scouting locations, checking weather forecasts and preparing her equipment. I'd see her around the property, always friendly, always excited about the coming night's shoot. She'd eat dinner with me sometimes, sharing stories about places she'd photographed, things she'd seen. But she never elaborated on that first question, about seeing weird things in the sky. The new moon came on November 21st, a Friday. Perfect conditions according to Sadie. Clear forecast, no wind, temperature dropping to about 15 degrees. Cold, but manageable with the right gear. I stopped by her camp around 8 p.m. to check if she needed anything. She was already set up, 3 cameras on tripods arranged in a semicircle, all pointed at different sections of sky. Her laptop glowed in the darkness, showing exposure settings and tracking data. "This is it," she said, her breath visible in the cold air. "This is going to be the best session of the trip. I can feel it. You want me to stay away? I don't want my trailer lights messing up your shots." "Actually," she said, "would you mind hanging around for a bit? I like having someone to talk to during the long exposures. Gets lonely out here sometimes." So I stayed. Brought a thermos of coffee and sat on a camping chair while Sadie worked. She'd set up a shot, start the exposure, then sit and wait, checking her laptop occasionally. We talked about nothing important. Weather, ranch work, her travels, normal conversation. Around 10 p.m., something changed. Sadie was reviewing images on her laptop when she went very still. "That's weird," she said quietly. "What?" "Look at this." She turned the laptop toward me. On screen was a gorgeous image of the Milky Way, brilliant and sharp. But Sadie was pointing at something else. "These stars here, in Cassiopeia, they're in the wrong position." I looked where she indicated. To me, it just looked like stars. "How can you tell?" "Because I photograph this constellation constantly. I know what it looks like. These stars," she zoomed in on the image. "They've moved, not a lot, just a few degrees, but they've definitely moved." "Could be a tracking error," I suggested. "The mount shifted?" "No. The rest of the image is perfect. It's just this one section." She pulled up another image, taken an hour earlier. "Look, here they're in the correct position. But in this newer shot, they've shifted." I couldn't see the difference, but Sadie clearly could. She pulled up reference star charts on her phone, comparing them to her images. The more she looked, the more agitated she became. "Stars don't do this," she said. "They move, yes, but predictably, over hours, not minutes, and certainly not randomly." "Maybe something with the camera?" "All 3 cameras are showing the same thing." She showed me. 3 different angles, 3 different cameras, all showing stars in positions they shouldn't be in. She stood up, looking at the actual sky. "I need to verify this, visually." She pulled out a telescope, a serious-looking piece of equipment that she set up with practiced efficiency. She spent several minutes aligning it, using her phone app to point it at specific coordinates. "Come look at this," she said finally. I bent down to the eyepiece. Through the telescope, I could see stars, sharp and clear. Sadie had it pointed at the same area of sky she'd been photographing. "Now, watch," she said. "Don't look away. Just watch those stars." I watched. For a full minute, nothing happened. The stars just hung there, cold and distant and still. Then I saw it. The stars didn't move, but something else did. A darkness, a shape I couldn't quite define, passed between me and the stars. It blocked them out for just a second, 3 specific stars going dark in sequence, left to right. Then they reappeared exactly where they'd been. "Did you see it?" Sadie asked, her voice tight. "Yeah," I said, stepping back from the telescope. "What was that?" "I don't know, but it's been happening all night. Every 15 minutes or so, something passes through that section of sky, and every time it does, when the stars come back, they're in slightly different positions." I looked up at the naked sky. To my eyes, everything looked normal. Static. Just stars doing what stars do. Could it be clouds? There are no clouds. Not even high-altitude ones. The sky is completely clear. She checked her laptop again. And it's not just that section. It's happening in other areas too. Things passing through, blocking stars. And when they come back, they're moved. That doesn't make sense. I know. We stood there in the cold Wyoming night, 2 people staring at a sky that was behaving in ways it shouldn't. Around us, the desert stretched out in all directions, empty and silent. "I want to try something," Sadie said. She adjusted her cameras, pointing all 3 at the same section of sky. "I'm going to do rapid sequential shots. Catch whatever this is in motion." For the next hour, her cameras clicked away, taking hundreds of images. We watched the sky, both with our eyes and through the telescope. I counted 7 more instances of those strange darkenings, those impossible shadows passing through the starfield. And each time, when I looked through the telescope after, the stars had shifted. Just slightly. Just enough to notice if you knew what you were looking for. Around midnight, Sadie's laptop started acting strange. The screen flickered, showing brief flashes of static between images. Then it went black. "No," Sadie said, frantically pressing keys. "No, no, no. Don't do this." The screen came back on, but something was wrong. All her images from tonight were gone. The folders were empty. 3 hours of shooting, hundreds of images, just vanished. "This isn't possible," she said, her voice rising. "These are on a solid-state drive. Files don't just disappear." She tried to restore them, checking backup locations, running recovery software. But the files were gone, completely gone. Except, "Wait," she said. "There's something here." A single folder labeled Session 13. It wasn't a folder she'd created. The naming convention was wrong. The timestamp showed it was created at 12:00 a.m. exactly, and inside was a single image file. She opened it. The image showed the night sky, but not the one we were looking at. The stars were wrong. All of them. The constellations didn't match anything I'd ever seen. And in the center of the frame, where there should have been empty sky, there were 3 dark shapes. Not shadows exactly. More like absences. Places where the image just stopped. "I didn't take this," Sadie said. "This isn't from any of my cameras." I leaned closer to the screen. The 3 shapes were roughly humanoid. Tall, impossibly tall, with proportions that made my eyes hurt to look at. They weren't blocking the stars. They were in front of them, but also, somehow behind them, occupying a space that didn't make geometric sense. "Turn it off," I said suddenly. "What?" "Turn off the laptop, now." Sadie must have heard something in my voice because she closed the laptop without argument. In the sudden darkness, illuminated only by starlight, we looked at each other. "Ben, what's happening?" "I don't know, but I think we should pack up, go inside, wait until morning. The sky will still be there in the morning," I finished. "But right now, I think we need to not be out here." She looked like she wanted to argue, but fear won out. We spent the next 20 minutes hurriedly packing her equipment. The whole time I felt watched. Not by anything I could see, just a presence, a weight in the air that hadn't been there before. We got everything into her tent, zipped it shut, and I walked Sadie back to my trailer. She didn't argue about leaving her camp for the night. Neither of us wanted to be alone. Inside the trailer, with the door locked and curtains drawn, we finally felt safe enough to talk. "This has happened before," Sadie said. "That's why I asked you about seeing weird things. I photographed 3 other locations in the past 2 months where the stars moved, where things passed through the sky that shouldn't be there. Why didn't you mention this earlier?" "Because people think I'm crazy. Because I have images, documented proof, and everyone says it's equipment malfunction or user error or atmospheric phenomena." She pulled out her phone, showing me photos. Different locations, different nights, but the same impossible result. Stars in the wrong positions, dark shapes moving through space that should be empty. "What are they?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. "I don't know, but they're drawn to observation. Every location where I've seen them, there's been someone watching the sky intensely, observing, recording. It's like they know when we're looking." A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the temperature. "You think they're aware of us?" "I think they're aware of being observed. And I think when we look too closely, when we try to document them, they respond. By deleting your images, by leaving different ones. That Session 13 file, that's not the first time. Every location, after the deletions, there's been a file I didn't create. And it always shows them. Those 3 shapes. Getting clearer each time." She showed me on her phone. 5 images from 5 different locations, each labeled Session 13. The progression was obvious. In the first image, the 3 shapes were barely visible, just vague distortions. By the 5th, the most recent one from tonight, they were almost solid, almost real. "What happens when they become completely clear?" I asked. Sadie didn't answer. She didn't need to. We both knew the question was rhetorical. We spent the rest of the night in my trailer, not sleeping, just waiting for sunrise. Every sound made us jump. Every creak of the metal walls sent adrenaline spiking through our systems. Around 3 a.m., we heard something outside. Footsteps, maybe, or just the wind. But they circled the trailer, slow and deliberate, for what felt like hours. When morning finally came, painting the eastern sky with pink and orange light, we emerged cautiously. The night's terror seemed absurd in the daylight. Everything looked normal. We walked to Sadie's camp. Her tent was still there, equipment inside untouched. But the cameras, all 3 had been turned, not knocked over, carefully repositioned. They now faced inward toward the tent instead of up at the sky. And on each camera's LCD screen, reviewing the last image taken, was the same thing. A photo of the tent, taken from above, from somewhere up in the sky, looking down at where we'd been standing just hours ago, completely exposed. We stood there in the cold morning light, staring at those cameras, at those impossible images. Sadie was shaking, and not from the cold. "This isn't possible," she whispered. "These cameras were off. I powered them down myself." But the LCD screens glowed with their terrible truth. 3 angles, 3 cameras, all showing the same thing: an overhead view of the tent and the surrounding area. The image quality was perfect, the kind of clarity you'd get from a high-altitude drone. Except there had been no drone, just darkness and stars, and those 3 shapes we'd seen moving through the sky. I checked the metadata on one of the cameras. The photo had been taken at 3:17 a.m., right around the time we'd heard those footsteps circling my trailer. "We need to call someone," I said. "And tell them what? That the stars are moving and something in the sky is taking pictures of us. They'll think we're insane." She had a point. But staying here, pretending nothing was wrong, felt worse. Sadie downloaded the images to a backup drive, hands trembling as she worked. "I'm documenting everything," she said. "Every anomaly, every deleted file, every impossible image. Eventually, someone has to believe me. Maybe you should just stop," I suggested. "Stop photographing the sky. Stop drawing their attention." I tried that. After the second location, I took a month off, didn't touch my camera equipment. But the nightmares started. Dreams of those 3 shapes standing outside my apartment window, looking in. Of the sky opening up and something reaching down. She looked at me with hollow eyes. "The dreams only stopped when I started photographing again. Like they want me to observe. Like that's part of whatever this is." We packed up her camp completely, loading everything into her Subaru. She was supposed to stay for 3 more days, but neither of us wanted her out here another night. She'd drive back to Boulder, take some time, maybe talk to someone about what she'd experienced. But as she was preparing to leave, something stopped her. "Ben, where's my laptop?" We looked through her car, through all the equipment we'd packed. The laptop was gone. "It was in the tent," Sadie said. "I know it was. We left it there when we ran back to your trailer." We checked the tent again, searched every inch of the campsite. But the laptop, with all its data, all the images including that Session 13 file, was simply gone. "They took it," Sadie said flatly. "They don't want evidence. Or they don't want us seeing what's in those files," I countered. We searched for another hour, but the laptop had vanished as completely as if it had never existed. Finally, Sadie got in her car, defeated and scared. "I'll email you," she said through the window. "Let you know I got home safe. Be careful," I told her. "And Sadie, maybe don't look up too much while you're driving." She nodded, gave me a weak smile, and drove away. I watched her taillights disappear down the access road, feeling like I should stop her, like I should make her stay where I could keep an eye on her. But what could I do? What could anyone do against something that moved through the sky like it owned it? I spent the rest of the day doing normal ranch work, trying to convince myself that last night had been some kind of mass hallucination. Equipment malfunction, stress, anything rational. But when evening came and the sun started to set, I found myself dreading the darkness in a way I never had before. I called Mrs. Kirkland, told her Sadie had left early, said nothing about why. She didn't ask questions, just thanked me for helping out. That night, I kept every light in my trailer on, kept the curtains drawn, tried to avoid looking at the windows, at the darkness beyond them. But around 9 p.m. I heard it. A sound like nothing I'd ever heard before. Not quite a hum, not quite a vibration. Something that I felt in my teeth, in my bones. It seemed to come from above, pressing down on the trailer like weight. I grabbed my phone to call for help, but there was no signal. Out here, that wasn't unusual, but the timing felt deliberate. The sound grew louder. My windows began to rattle in their frames. The lights flickered, dimmed, brightened again. Against every instinct, I went to the door and looked outside. The sky was full of stars. normal, beautiful, exactly as it should be. But as I watched, 3 stars directly overhead began to move. Not the gentle tracking motion of satellites. This was deliberate, purposeful. They formed a triangle, growing larger as if whatever bore them was descending. I slammed the door and backed away. The sound intensified until it was all I could hear, all I could feel. The walls of the trailer shook. Things fell from shelves. And through it all I heard something else. Footsteps. On my roof. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, walking the length of the trailer, back and forth. The metal groaned under the weight. Whatever was up there, it wasn't human. Nothing human could be that heavy, that large. I huddled in the corner, phone in hand even though it was useless, waiting for the roof to cave in, for whatever was up there to come crashing down on me. Then, suddenly, it stopped. The sound cut off, the footsteps ceased. Even the vibration in the air vanished, leaving behind a silence so complete it hurt my ears. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. 20, nothing. Finally, I worked up the courage to look outside again. The sky was normal. Stars in their proper places, not moving, not descending. Just stars. But when I went out to check the roof of my trailer the next morning, I found marks. 3 sets of them, evenly spaced, running the length of the trailer. Deep impressions in the metal, like something incredibly heavy had stood there. The impressions weren't shaped like feet. They were circular, maybe 8 inches across, arranged in groups of 3. Like whatever had been standing on my roof didn't walk on 2 legs. It walked on 3. I took photos of the marks with my phone, though I didn't know who I'd show them to. Then I tried calling Sadie. It went straight to voicemail. I left a message. "Sadie, it's Ben. Call me when you get this. I need to know you're okay." She didn't call back. For the next 3 days, I went through the motions of ranch work in a daze. Each night, I'd lock myself in the trailer, keep the lights on, and wait for something to happen. But the nights passed quietly. No sounds, no footsteps, no moving stars. I tried calling Sadie twice more. No answer. I told myself she was just busy or angry at me for not doing more to help her, or maybe she'd decided to cut contact because the experience had been too traumatic. But I knew better. I knew something was wrong. On the 4th day, I drove into town to use the internet at the library. I searched for Sadie Lane, photographer, Boulder, Colorado. What I found made my blood run cold. There was an obituary, posted 2 days ago. Sadie Lane, 31, of Boulder, Colorado, died on November 22nd. No cause of death listed. Services to be held privately. In lieu of flowers, donations could be made to the Dark Sky Association. November 22nd, the day after she left my property. I called the number listed in the obituary, got her mother. Explained I was a friend, that I'd just heard the news. She was so excited about that Wyoming trip, her mother said through tears. She called me the night before she died, said she'd seen something amazing, something that would change everything. "Do you know what happened to her?" I asked carefully. The police said it was a car accident, a single vehicle. She drove off the highway about 50 miles from your area. They said she must have fallen asleep at the wheel. A pause. But that doesn't make sense. Sadie was always so careful, and she was found in the morning, but the accident supposedly happened around midnight. Why didn't anyone see the car until dawn? "I don't know," I said, though I was beginning to suspect. "There was something else," her mother continued. "The police said her cameras were all erased. Every memory card completely wiped, and her laptop was missing. They thought maybe someone came across the accident and stole it, but..." She trailed off. "I don't know. The whole thing feels wrong. After I hung up, I sat in my truck in the library parking lot, shaking. Sadie had died the same night I'd heard those footsteps on my roof. The night the stars had descended. She'd seen something amazing, she'd told her mother. Something that would change everything. But what had she seen? And what had it cost her? I drove back to the ranch in a daze. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and purple. Beautiful. Deadly. When I got back to my trailer, I found something waiting for me on the doorstep. A laptop. Sadie's laptop. It sat there like it had been carefully placed, not dropped or thrown. Just set down gently, deliberately. I looked around. No one. Nothing. Just the empty desert and the darkening sky. I picked up the laptop, hands shaking, and took it inside. It powered on immediately, battery fully charged. The screen showed the desktop, and there was only one folder visible. Session 13. I clicked on it. Inside were hundreds of images. Not the ones Sadie had taken. New ones. Photos of my trailer from every angle. Photos of me working around the ranch over the past 4 days. Photos of me sleeping in my bed, taken through my window. And at the end, a video file. Time stamped November 22nd, 12:47 a.m. I didn't want to watch it. Every instinct screamed at me to delete it, to throw the laptop away, to pretend I'd never found it. But I had to know. I clicked play. The video showed a car interior. Sadie's Subaru, the dashboard camera capturing the view through the windshield. It was night, she was driving, the road illuminated by her headlights. Then the lights began to flicker. The dashboard went dark. The car's engine cut out. Sadie's voice scared, "No, no, 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 not again." The car coasted to a stop. Total darkness except for the faint glow of stars through the windshield. For a moment, nothing. Just Sadie's breathing, fast and panicked. Then 3 lights appeared in the sky ahead. Descending, growing larger. Sadie screamed, tried to restart the car. The engine wouldn't turn over. The lights got closer, brighter, until they filled the entire frame, washing out the camera's sensor. And in that whiteout for just a second, I saw them. 3 tall figures, their silhouettes visible against the light. The same figures from the deleted photos, the same shapes that had moved through the stars. They stood there, looking down at Sadie's car. Then the video cut to static. When it came back, the perspective had changed. The camera was now outside the car, looking in. I could see Sadie in the driver's seat, her face pressed against the window, eyes wide with terror, staring up at something the camera couldn't capture. She mouthed something. I couldn't hear it, but I could read her lips. "Don't look up." Then the video ended. I sat there, staring at the black screen, my mind refusing to process what I'd just seen. A knock at my door made me jump. It was full dark now, stars visible through my windows. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Another knock, patient, persistent. Then a voice. Sadie's voice. "Ben, can you let me in? It's so cold out here." But Sadie was dead. She'd died 4 days ago. The knock came again. "Ben, please, I need to show you something. Something amazing, in the sky." I backed away from the door, grabbing my keys. I had to get out, had to get away. But when I looked out the window, I saw them. 3 tall figures standing in a triangle around my trailer. Not moving. Just standing there, watching, waiting. I stood frozen, looking at those 3 figures through the window. They were taller than any human had a right to be. Easily 8 or 9 feet. In the starlight, I couldn't make out details, just silhouettes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The knocking continued. "Ben, I know you're scared. I was scared too, but it's beautiful. Once you see it, really see it, You'll understand." The voice was Sadie's, but wrong. Too flat, too emotionless. Like someone had recorded her voice and was playing it back without understanding the meaning behind the words. I needed to think. Needed a plan. The figures hadn't moved, but they'd positioned themselves to cover every exit. Front door, back door, and the emergency window in the bedroom. They knew the layout of my trailer. My phone still had no signal. The laptop sat on the table, screen dark now, and those 3 figures stood silent sentinel in the night. The voice came again, but this time it wasn't from the door. It was from above, from the roof. "Why won't you look up, Ben? The stars are so beautiful tonight. Don't you want to see?" The trailer creaked under weight. They were on the roof again. All 3 of them, based on the sound. Walking back and forth, making the metal groan. I grabbed the only weapon I had, a hunting rifle I kept for coyotes. Loaded it with shaking hands. It was absurd. What good would bullets do against something that could move through the sky, that could delete photographs and steal laptops and mimic the voices of the dead? But it made me feel slightly less helpless. Sadie saw it, the voice continued, still speaking with her inflection, her tone. She looked up and she understood. Now she's with us, part of us. And she's so happy, Ben, she wants you to be happy too. "You're not Sadie," I shouted at the ceiling. "Sadie's dead." Silence, then, "Dead? No. Sadie's not dead. She's changed, elevated. She's above all this now, literally above." A sound that might have been laughter. Wrong laughter, in the wrong register, like something that didn't understand the concept was trying to imitate it. "Come outside, Ben. Look up at the sky. See what Sadie sees. See what we've always been, what we've always done. You've looked up your whole life and never really seen us. But now you can. Now, we'll let you." I backed into the corner of my trailer, rifle raised, trying to watch all the windows at once. The footsteps on the roof continued their methodical pacing. Back and forth, back and forth. Then they stopped. Silence. Complete and total. I waited, heart hammering for what would happen next. The trailer began to shake. Gently at first, then harder. It felt like an earthquake, but focused, deliberate. Things rattled and fell. The lights flickered, and then the roof began to peel back. Not torn, not ripped, it just opened, like invisible hands were carefully folding back the metal like paper, creating a widening hole directly above me. Through the opening I saw the night sky. Stars, thousands of them, and blocking those stars, 3 tall figures, looking down at me. They had faces, sort of, approximations of faces, like someone had described human features to something that had never seen a human. Eyes in the wrong places, too many teeth. Proportions that made my brain hurt to process. "Look up," they said in unison, in Sadie's voice. "See us." I fired the rifle. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet hit one of the figure's center mass. It passed through, like shooting at smoke. The figure didn't even flinch. "We're not here," it said. "Not the way you understand here. We're above, beyond. We've always been beyond. But when you observe us, when you really look, we become more here, more real. That's why we need you to look up." The other figures reached down. Their arms were too long, the joints bending in ways that violated basic anatomy. They extended down through the opening in the roof, reaching for me. I ran for the door. Didn't care about the figure outside anymore. Just needed to get away from those reaching hands. I yanked the door open and stumbled out into the night. The figure that had been standing at the door was gone. All 3 were on the roof, focused on the opening they'd created, reaching inside. They hadn't noticed me leave. I ran. Didn't know where I was going, just away. My boots pounded on the hard ground. My breath came in gasping clouds of vapor. Behind me, I heard that sound again, that not-quite laughter, echoing across the empty desert. I ran until my legs burned and my lungs felt like they'd burst. Ran until I couldn't hear anything but my own breathing and the pounding of my heart. Finally, I collapsed behind a rock outcropping, gasping for air, my whole body shaking. It was only then I realized I was still gripping the rifle, and that I had no idea where I was. I'd run blind in the dark, across terrain I knew during the day, but which became an alien landscape at night. I could be anywhere on the Kirkland property, miles from the nearest road, miles from help. I checked my phone, still no signal. The battery was at 15%. I needed to think, to plan. The ranch house was maybe 5 miles west. If I could get there, I could call for help. Mrs. Kirkland was in Arizona visiting her daughter, but there'd be a landline, a car, a way out. I looked up, trying to get my bearings from the stars, and immediately regretted it. The stars were wrong again. The constellations I'd known my entire life, the patterns that were as familiar as my own face, were scrambled. Orion's belt wasn't where it should be. The Big Dipper was upside down. Cassiopeia had too many stars, and 3 stars, brighter than the others, were moving, forming a triangle, growing larger. They'd found me. I ran again, changing direction, heading for a gully I thought I remembered. Behind me, I could hear them. Not footsteps exactly, more like a displacement of air, a pressure wave that preceded their approach. I scrambled down into the gully, pressing myself against the rocky wall, hoping the darkness and the terrain would hide me. My phone's battery was at 10%. I turned it off to save power. In the darkness, I waited, listened. The sound of their approach stopped. They were close, maybe right above the gully, but they hadn't found me yet. I heard their voices, all 3 speaking simultaneously, each in a different tone, creating a discordant harmony that hurt to hear. Ben Harlow, 32 years old, born in Casper, moved to the ranch 3 years ago, likes solitude, likes the sky. They were reciting facts about my life, personal information they shouldn't have known. Looked up at the stars as a child, wondered what was out there. Now you know. Now you've seen us. We've been here forever, another voice said. Watching, waiting. Most humans look up and see nothing. They lack the focus, the attention. But people like Sadie, people who really observe the sky, people who study it intensely, they start to see us. And once they see us, we become more real. The more you observe us, the more solid we become, the more we can interact with your world. Sadie helped us so much. Hundreds of hours observing, documenting, trying to understand. She made us more real than we've been in centuries. I realized with growing horror what they were saying. They were feeding on observation, on attention. Every photograph Sadie took, every hour she spent studying the sky had made them stronger, more present. And now you, Ben, you've seen us, you've looked. Not for long, not like Sadie did, but enough. Enough that we can follow you. Enough that we're starting to exist in your world as well as our own. I pressed myself harder against the rock, trying to make myself smaller, trying to somehow unsee what I'd seen. You can't hide, the third voice said. The sky is everywhere, and we are the sky. As long as you're under it, we can find you. Silence fell. I waited, not daring to breathe. Then I heard it. A sound like wind but wrong, coming from above. I looked up and immediately cursed myself for it. They were there. All 3 of them floating in the air above the gully, looking down at me. Their faces, those terrible approximations of human features, smiled. "There you are," they said. I raised the rifle, knowing it was useless, firing anyway. The shots echoed across the desert, the muzzle flashes briefly illuminating the gully. The bullets passed through them like they were made of mist. They began to descend. I scrambled out of the gully, running again. Didn't care about direction anymore. Just needed to move, to keep moving, to put distance between me and them. But everywhere I looked, the sky was above me, and they were the sky. I ran until I saw lights ahead. The ranch house, oh God, the ranch house. Salvation. I sprinted the last 100 yards, lungs burning, legs screaming. Reached the door and yanked it open. Inside was dark. I fumbled for the light switch, found it, flipped it on. Nothing happened. The power was out. Or off. Or they'd done something to it. I could feel them behind me. That pressure, that displacement of air. They were coming through the door. I ran deeper into the house looking for the landline. Found it in the kitchen. Picked up the receiver. No dial tone. The line was dead. "Ben!" I spun around. They were standing in the doorway to the kitchen. All three of them, solid now. More real than they'd been before. I could see details I hadn't been able to see before. The texture of their skin, if it could be called skin. The way their joints bent. The intelligence in those wrong-positioned eyes. "You can't run forever," the middle one said. "And you don't need to. This isn't punishment. This is elevation. Ask Sadie." The one on the left moved aside, and someone else stepped into the kitchen. Sadie, but not Sadie. She was too tall now, her proportions stretched like theirs. Her face still recognizable but changed. The features shifted slightly, becoming more like theirs. "Ben," she said, and this time it was really her voice, inflected properly, emotional. "Ben, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know what they were." "What did they do to you?" I asked. "Nothing, everything. I don't know how to explain it." She looked at the three figures, then back at me. When I drove away that night, I was so scared, but also curious. What had we seen? What were those shapes? So I pulled over, and I looked up, really looked, tried to understand. "And they came for you. They came to me," she corrected. "And they showed me. Ben, the universe is so much bigger than we thought. So much stranger. These beings, they exist in spaces we don't have words for. Dimensions we can't perceive normally. But when we observe them intensely enough, when we really focus on where they are, we create a bridge. We make them visible. Real. They killed you. They changed me. My body couldn't handle the transition. It's still in my car, back on that highway. But I'm here. More here than I ever was in my old body. I can see things now, Ben. I can see the truth of what's above us." She reached out a hand. It was too long now, the fingers joint in too many places. "Come with us. Look up, really look. Let us show you what we showed Sadie. You won't be afraid anymore. You'll understand." I backed away, hitting the counter. "No, I don't want to understand." "But you've already started," the middle figure said. "You've seen us. You've observed us. The bridge is forming. Every time you look up from now on, we'll be a little more real to you, a little more present, until eventually you won't be able to see anything else. Unless you accept it," Sadie added. "Stop fighting. Look up willingly. Let us complete the transition. It's easier that way, less frightening." I looked at Sadie, at what she'd become. At the three figures standing in Mrs. Kirkland's kitchen like they owned the place, and I made a decision. "Okay," I said. "Okay, I'll look. But not here. Outside. Under the full sky." They glanced at each other. Some communication passing between them that I couldn't interpret. Outside, the middle one agreed. We walked out of the ranch house together. Me and 3 alien things, and the transformed remnant of a woman I'd barely known. Out into the cold Wyoming night, under a sky full of wrong stars. They arranged themselves in a triangle around me, just like they had around my trailer. Sadie stood between me and the ranch house, blocking my escape. "Now," the middle figure said. "Look up, really look, see us for what we are." I tilted my head back, looking at the sky. The stars were completely scrambled now. Nothing where it should be. The Milky Way twisted in the wrong direction. Planets that should be months away from each other hung side by side. And above it all, behind it all, I saw them. Not 3 figures, hundreds, thousands, an entire civilization existing in the space between stars, watching Earth, waiting for us to pay enough attention to make them real. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Sadie asked. I looked at her, at the hope in her distorted face, at the 3 figures surrounding me, ready to pull me up, to change me, to make me like them, and I smiled. "It is beautiful," I agreed. Then I looked down and ran. I caught them off guard. They'd expected acceptance, expected me to be mesmerized like Sadie had been. Instead, I broke through their triangle formation and ran for the barn. Behind me, I heard confusion, anger, that wrong laughter again, but harsh now. "You can't escape," one of them called. "The sky is everywhere." But I wasn't trying to escape. I was going for the barn, for Mrs. Kirkland's old storm shelter, buried underneath. It had been built in the 50s, solid concrete, designed to withstand tornadoes, designed to have thick walls between you and the sky. I hit the barn door at full speed, yanked it open, and dove inside. My hands found the storm shelter's entrance by memory. A heavy metal door, set into the floor with a wheel lock. I spun it open and dropped down into the darkness below, pulling the door shut above me. The wheel turned from below, sealing me in. Complete darkness. Complete silence. Nothing but concrete in every direction. And no sky, no view of the stars, no way for them to maintain the bridge. I turned on my phone, using the last of its battery to illuminate the shelter. It was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet with concrete walls 3 feet thick. Shelves held old supplies, canned food from decades ago, dusty blankets, and a landline, because, of course, there was. Emergency communication for when you were sealed in during a storm. I picked up the receiver. "Please work, please," dial tone. I called 911. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Ben Harlow. I'm at the Kirkland Ranch, 40 miles east of Laramie. I need help. I need police. I stopped. What did I need? How could I explain this? Sir, are you injured? Are you in immediate danger? Yes, no, I don't know. I took a breath, tried to think clearly. There's been a death. A woman named Sadie Lane. She died on Highway 287 4 days ago. But she's here, or something that looks like her is here, and there are things in the sky. They're trying to... Sir, have you been drinking? No, I know how this sounds, but you need to send someone. Please. I'm locked in a storm shelter, and I don't know how long they'll wait for me to come out. A pause on the other end. Then, sir, we have a record of the Sadie Lane incident. A single vehicle accident, deceased at the scene. Are you saying you have new information about that? I'm saying she's not dead. Or she is dead, but something is using her appearance. Something that came from the sky. Something that's been watching us. Another pause. Longer this time. Sir, I'm going to send a unit out to your location, but I need you to stay on the line with me. Can you do that? Yes. Yes, I'll stay on the line. Good. Now, are you injured in any way? No. Are you alone in the shelter? I looked around the concrete space. Small, enclosed. Nothing but me and the old supplies and the thick walls between me and them. Yes, I'm alone. Okay, help is on the way. Should be there in about 40 minutes. Can you tell me exactly what happened? So I told her everything. The photographs, the moving stars, the Session 13 files. Sadie's death and her impossible reappearance. The figures that came from the sky, that became more real the more you observed them. She listened without interrupting, which I appreciated. When I finished, there was a long silence. Sir, that's quite a story. I know how it sounds. We've had other calls, she interrupted. Not many, just a handful over the past few weeks. People reporting strange things in the sky, missing photographs, feeling watched. We've been told to route all such calls to a specific number for a federal agency. I can't tell you which one, but they're interested in these reports. My hand tightened on the phone. So you believe me? I believe something unusual is happening, and I believe you're scared. That's enough for me to send help. Another pause. Sir, those other callers? Most of them went missing shortly after making their reports, so I need you to stay in that shelter. Don't come out until our officers arrive. Do you understand? Yes. Good. Now, you said you're at the Kirkland Ranch. Is there anyone else on the property? No, Mrs. Kirkland is in Arizona. I'm the only one here. And these figures, these things you saw, are they still outside the shelter? I listened, pressed my ear against the concrete wall. I couldn't hear anything, but that didn't mean they weren't there. Waiting, patient. I don't know, but they can wait. They've been waiting for centuries, maybe longer. What's 40 minutes to them? The dispatcher kept me on the line, asking questions, keeping me talking. Normal questions about my name, age, how long I'd worked at the ranch. Grounding questions, keeping me connected to reality. Because that was the danger, wasn't it? The more you focused on them, the more real they became. But the inverse was also true. If you stopped looking, stopped observing, stopped acknowledging them, they faded, became less solid, less here. That's why the storm shelter worked. Concrete blocked the view of the sky, blocked the observation that fed them. I just had to wait. Help was coming, I'd be fine. At 35 minutes I heard something. A scraping sound directly above me. They'd found the shelter door. They're outside, I told the dispatcher. Don't open the door. Don't respond to them. Help is almost there. The scraping continued. Then a voice, muffled by the thick metal door. Sadie's voice. Ben, please, I'm scared. Let me in. They're going to hurt me if you don't let me in. Don't listen, the dispatcher said. That's not your friend. Your friend is dead. I know, I said. But God, it sounded like her. Sounded terrified and hurt and desperate. Ben, please. I don't want to become like them. I'm still me, still human, but I won't be for long unless you help me. My hand moved toward the wheel lock. Stopped. Sir? The dispatcher's voice sharp. Are you still there? I'm here. I'm not opening the door. Good. Units are 5 minutes out. The voice above changed. Became all three figures speaking in unison. You can't hide forever, Ben. Eventually you'll have to look up. And when you do, we'll be waiting. We're always waiting. We're always watching. From above. Then silence. The 5 minutes stretched into infinity. I counted my heartbeats, trying to stay calm. Tried not to imagine what was happening above me, what was waiting for me to emerge. Finally, I heard sirens. Distant at first, then closer. The sound of vehicles arriving, doors slamming, voices shouting. The dispatcher said, "Officers are on scene. I'm going to keep you on the line until they confirm it's safe." I waited, listening to muffled sounds from above. More voices. Confusion. Someone tried the storm shelter door. "Anyone down there? This is the sheriff's department." "I'm here," I shouted. "We're going to open the door. Stand back." The wheel turned. Light spilled in, painfully bright after the darkness. I squinted up at silhouettes against the barn's interior lighting. "Sir, can you come up?" Slowly. I climbed the ladder, emerging into the barn. 3 officers waited, hands on their weapons but not drawn. They looked tense but confused. "Sir, are you Ben Harlow?" "Yes." "Can you tell us what happened here?" I looked around the barn. Normal, empty. No signs of the 3 figures or transformed Sadie. They were here, outside the shelter, trying to get in. The lead officer exchanged glances with the others. "Sir, we didn't see anyone when we arrived. The property appears deserted. Check my trailer. The roof, they damaged it." We walked to my trailer, the officers flanking me. The roof was intact, no sign of the hole that had been torn open. No marks from the footsteps. "They fixed it," I said. "Or it never happened, or I didn't know how to explain it. Look up. Look at the stars. They're wrong." The officers looked at each other again. One started to look up, but the lead officer grabbed his arm. "Don't," he said quietly. "We were briefed. Don't look at the sky." So they knew, or at least someone had warned them. "We need to take you somewhere safe," the lead officer said. "Get a statement. Figure out what happened here. You willing to come with us?" I nodded. Gladly. Anywhere but here. They put me in the back of a patrol car. As we drove away from the ranch, I looked out the window at the Wyoming landscape sliding past. Beautiful, vast, and above it, that enormous sky that I'd taken for granted my entire life. I didn't look up, kept my eyes on the horizon, on the road, on the officer's head in front of me. Anywhere but up, because I could feel them. Still there, still watching. The bridge had been formed, just a little, just enough that I'd always be aware of them now. Would I always feel their presence above me? At the sheriff's office, they put me in a room with a federal agent. Wouldn't tell me which agency. He asked detailed questions about everything I'd experienced. Took notes on a tablet. Didn't seem surprised by anything I said. "You're not the first," he told me when I finished. "There have been others. People who observe the sky too intently. Astrophotographers, mostly. Amateur astronomers. People who spend hours looking up, trying to see details others miss." "What are they?" I asked. "We don't know. Best theory is they exist in a quantum state, neither fully here nor fully not here, until observation collapses them into our reality. The more focused the observation, the more solid they become. That's why they target photographers, people with cameras, telescopes, people who are really looking." "Exactly. And once you've seen them, really seen them, they remain partially real to you forever. You've created a connection that can't be fully severed." "What happened to the others? The people who've encountered them?" The agent didn't answer for a moment. "Some are in psychiatric care, some are missing, a few changed, like your friend Sadie. We have reports of people who encountered these entities becoming obsessed with the sky, staring at it for hours. Eventually, they stop responding to outside stimuli entirely. Just look up until they die of dehydration or exposure." Jesus. "We've tried to contain the information, keep it quiet, because the more people know about these entities, the more people look for them. And the more people look, the more real they become. He leaned forward. "Mr. Harlow, I need you to understand something. You can't talk about this to anyone. What you've experienced, what you've seen, it stays classified. For your own safety and everyone else's. You're asking me to lie. I'm asking you to stay alive. Because if you spread this story, if you make others curious about what's in the sky, you'll be creating more bridges, more connections, making them more real." He slid a form across the table, a non-disclosure agreement with the federal government. "Sign it or face prosecution for spreading classified information." I signed. They kept me for 3 more days, running tests, asking questions, making sure I wasn't going to break down or run to the media. Finally, they let me go with a warning and a phone number to call if I experienced any further encounters. I didn't go back to the ranch. Couldn't. The Kirklands were understanding, sent my belongings to a storage unit. I moved to Cheyenne, got a job working in a warehouse, indoor work, no exposure to the open sky. That was 6 months ago. I still feel them sometimes, especially at night. That pressure, that sense of being watched from above. I keep my curtains closed. Don't go out after dark if I can help it. And I never, ever look up. But sometimes I can't help it. You can't live your whole life staring at the ground. Sometimes you have to look up, to cross a street, to check the weather, to just live. And when I do, just for a second, I see them. 3 tall figures, standing among the clouds, or the stars, or the blue afternoon sky, watching, waiting. They haven't approached me again, haven't tried to communicate. Maybe I didn't observe them long enough to fully form the bridge. Maybe I'm not interesting to them anymore, or maybe they're just patient, waiting for me to look up just one time too many. Waiting for curiosity or carelessness or just the simple human inability to ignore the sky forever. I think about Sadie sometimes. Wonder where she is now. If she's still partially here, partially transformed, wandering the Wyoming desert. Or if she's completely crossed over, become entirely one of them, existing in those spaces between stars where humans aren't meant to go. Her obituary said donations to the Dark Sky Association. It seemed like a cruel joke. She'd died protecting dark skies, trying to document their beauty. Instead, she documented something else, something that had been hiding in that darkness all along. I got a package last week, no return address. Inside was a USB drive. I knew I shouldn't look, knew it was from them, but curiosity is a powerful thing. On the drive was a single folder, Session 13. Inside were new photos, hundreds of them, all showing me, at work, at my apartment, walking down the street, all taken from above. And at the end, a video file. I opened it even though I knew I shouldn't. It showed the Wyoming sky. Nighttime. Stars brilliant and clear. 3 lights moved through the frame, forming their familiar triangle. Then the camera panned down to Sadie's campsite, where this all started. The spot was empty now, but as I watched, 3 figures appeared. Tall, strange, wrong. They stood there for a moment, looking at the camera. Then they waved. The video ended with a single line of text appearing on screen. "We're still watching. We're always watching. Try not to look up." I deleted the file, destroyed the USB drive. But the message was clear. They're still there, still waiting. And they know where I am. I'm writing this down as a warning, as documentation. If you're reading this, please understand. The sky isn't empty. It never was. There are things up there, things that exist in the spaces between observation and reality. Things that become more real the more attention we give them. So please, if you see stars that move wrong, If you find photographs that show things you didn't see with your naked eye, if you feel watched when you look at the night sky, don't investigate. Don't try to document it. Don't give them the observation they need to become fully real. Just look away. Look down. And whatever you do, don't look up at the sky, because they're always there, always watching, always waiting for someone to really see them. And once you do, you can never truly stop. The bridge is formed, the connection is made, and they'll follow you for the rest of your life. Trust me, I know. Every time I close my eyes, I see them. 3 tall figures, standing in the darkness behind my eyelids, waiting for me to open them again, waiting for me to look up just one more time.